As the great Buddha once said, peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. When life begins to hurt too much, our first instinct is to search outside ourselves for relief. We turn to people, distractions, noise, hoping something out there will take the pain away. But no matter how far we search, nothing truly eases the ache inside. You wake up feeling tired, not just in your body, but in your soul. You carry a smile that hides the storm, and every day feels like you're silently begging for peace, but no one really sees it. This is where Buddhism gently brings you home. It doesn't offer escape. It doesn't demand perfection. It simply shows you that the peace you're looking for, the healing, the strength, the clarity, it's already within you, beneath the pain, beneath the noise, waiting to be seen. When life hurts too much, don't rush to fix everything outside. Turn inward, breathe, be still, because peace was never lost. It was just buried under all the things you thought you had to carry. 1. Life is not supposed to be constantly happy. It's supposed to be real. From the moment we are children, we are fed the idea that happiness is the goal of life. We see it in movies, in books, in advertisements, smiling faces, perfect relationships, success stories. It's as if the world is trying to convince us that happiness is not just desirable, it's expected. That if you work hard enough, look good enough, and make all the right decisions, you will eventually arrive at a place where you're always smiling, always content, always winning. And so we begin to chase this dream of permanent happiness, like a mountain peak we think we can reach and never come down from. But then life happens. We get hurt. People disappoint us. Plans fall apart. Unexpected losses shake our hearts. And suddenly, we start to feel something very human: sadness, fear, confusion, pain. And instead of accepting these as natural experiences, we panic. We feel like something must be wrong with us. We start comparing ourselves to others who seem happier. We wonder what we're doing wrong. Why are we not constantly smiling like everyone else? But the truth is, those people we compare ourselves to are also struggling, also aching, also carrying burdens that you cannot see. They are simply hiding it better, or pretending better, or numbing better. Buddhism doesn't promise a life of non-stop bliss. It doesn't sell illusions. It offers truth. And the truth is this: life includes joy, yes, but also sorrow. Peace, yes, but also struggle. Gain, yes, but also loss. And all of it is part of being fully alive. Emotions are like the seasons. They change, they cycle, they come and go. Nothing stays forever, not even happiness. And that's not a problem. It's the design of nature. To live authentically is to stop chasing a fantasy where you only feel the emotions you like and begin embracing the full spectrum of what it means to be human. Real strength is not found in how often you smile, but in how honestly you feel. Not in pretending to be okay, but in showing up fully for your life, even when it's messy, painful, or uncertain. The moment you stop demanding that life always feel good is the moment you begin to actually live. You stop resisting reality. You start making peace with what is. You stop trying to escape sadness and begin learning from it. You stop feeling broken when things go wrong and begin trusting that difficulty has its own wisdom. When you accept that life isn't meant to be constantly happy, but constantly real, you stop being so hard on yourself. You stop expecting perfection from yourself and others. You stop pretending and start feeling. And in that deep acceptance, something more powerful than happiness begins to grow inside you. It's not always exciting, it doesn't always sparkle, but it's steady, it's calm, it's clear, it's peace. And peace, unlike happiness, doesn't depend on everything going right. Peace arises when you stop resisting what's wrong. It grows when you stop needing every moment to feel good and start honoring every moment for what it is. You may not always be happy, but you can always be present. You may not always be smiling, but you can always be aware. And that awareness is what transforms suffering into insight. So let go of the illusion that happiness is a destination. You were not born to chase smiles. You were born to feel, to learn, to grow. Let life be real, and you will discover that in its realness, even the pain has beauty, even the sorrow has meaning, and even your hardest moments are preparing you for something deeper than you can yet understand. 2. Breathe through the storm. Your breath is a lifeline. When life becomes too heavy, when your heart feels like it's sinking and your thoughts won't stop spinning, there is one simple truth you often forget. You are still breathing. In the middle of emotional storms, grief, anxiety, or heartbreak, the breath becomes shallow, almost forgotten. You're so focused on the pain that you forget the one tool that is always with you, the one anchor that asks for nothing but awareness. In Buddhism, the breath is not just something you do, it is a doorway back to the present moment. It is the most direct, most natural, and most available path to healing. When the world feels overwhelming and you don't know how to fix anything around you, the breath whispers, "Start here." You don't need to solve the storm, you just need to survive this moment. And your breath can carry you through that moment, one inhale, one exhale at a time. It doesn't matter how chaotic your mind feels. It doesn't matter how deep your sorrow runs. The breath doesn't ask for perfection. It doesn't judge your thoughts. It doesn't demand you feel better right away. It simply offers itself as a space, an inner refuge you can return to over and over again. And the more you return to it, the more you realize that this storm you're in does not own you. It's passing through you, and your breath is the bridge that takes you from fear to calm, from resistance to acceptance, from fragmentation to wholeness. Breathing deeply is not weakness, it is presence. It is your way of saying, "I choose to stay," not because it's easy, not because everything is okay, but because you are learning to face life gently without abandoning yourself. You are learning that it is okay to slow down, that healing does not come through force, but through softness, patience, and attention. When you consciously breathe, you bring your mind back to the body. And when your mind returns to your body, you are no longer lost in the past or the future. You are no longer fighting ghosts of what happened or fearing shadows of what might come. You are here. And here, even with pain, you can find a sense of safety. Even in the chaos, there is stillness waiting beneath the surface. That stillness is not something you create. It's something you uncover by calming your nervous system and listening deeply to what this moment needs from you. So the next time your heart feels like it's breaking or your mind feels like it's drowning, don't rush to fix your life. Just breathe, not shallow and fast, but slow and full. Inhale and feel your chest expand like a soft balloon. Exhale and let the tension melt from your shoulders. Feel the air as it enters you. Feel the life force that moves through you. That is your lifeline. That is your guide. No matter how dark your circumstances may be, the breath reminds you that you are alive. And as long as you are alive, there is space for healing. There is time to begin again. You may not know what comes next, but your breath does. It leads you gently, one peaceful moment at a time, until the storm begins to quiet and the path forward reveals itself, quietly, patiently, and without fear. 3. Stop running from the pain. It's not your enemy. When pain enters your life, your first instinct is to get rid of it. You look for the fastest way to escape it, numb it, silence it. You keep yourself busy, you distract your mind, you scroll endlessly. You tell yourself, "It's fine, I'm fine," even when everything inside you is screaming. And it makes sense. Who wants to feel broken? Who wants to sit with heartache, loss, or fear? But the more you run, the louder the pain becomes. It finds you in the silence. It creeps into your thoughts when you least expect it. It becomes heavier each time you try to avoid it. Buddhism teaches that pain is not your enemy. It is your messenger. It is not here to punish you, but to show you something you haven't fully seen, to open your eyes to the truth you've been avoiding. Pain is not a sign of weakness. It is the language of transformation. When you stop running from it and instead sit with it quietly, without judgment, you begin to understand that pain does not want to destroy you. It wants to guide you back to yourself. Running from pain is like running from your shadow. It doesn't matter how fast you go or how far you travel, it stays with you. You cannot escape what is already inside you. You can only face it. And in that facing there is power, real power. Not the kind that makes you feel strong on the outside, but the kind that helps you soften on the inside. The kind that allows you to cry without shame, to feel without resistance, to fall apart and still be whole. Sitting with pain doesn't mean you give up or drown in sorrow. It means you stop pretending. You stop lying to yourself about what you feel. You become honest. You sit in a quiet room, place your hand on your chest and ask, what is really going on inside me? And then you listen, without trying to fix it, without trying to control it. You listen as if you were listening to a wounded child. Because that's what pain often is, parts of you that feel abandoned, unheard, misunderstood. When you stop running and simply allow the pain to speak, it tells you what needs healing. It shows you the fears you've buried, the grief you've denied, the old wounds you've never addressed. And while that may feel overwhelming at first, what's even more overwhelming is carrying all of that pain silently for years, pretending you're okay. That silent burden, unseen, unspoken, is what truly breaks you. Not the pain itself, but your refusal to face it. And here is the truth many people never tell you. Facing pain doesn't make it worse. It makes it lighter. The moment you sit with it, its power begins to shift. It stops being a shadow chasing you and starts becoming a fire transforming you. You begin to see its purpose. You begin to realize that the hurt you feel is part of your human journey, that your soul is not being crushed, it's being reshaped. Yes, it will be uncomfortable. Yes, you may cry more than you ever have, but those tears are not weakness. They are release. They are the body's way of letting go of years of silent pain. And when the crying slows and the storm passes, you begin to feel something new, a strange calm, a quiet clarity, not because the pain is gone, but because you are no longer afraid of it. When you stop running from the pain, you stop running from yourself. You begin to accept that you are allowed to hurt, that you don't need to hide your suffering behind a smile, that healing doesn't come through resistance, it comes through surrender, and in that surrender, your pain becomes sacred. It becomes a teacher, a sculptor, a purifier. It carves away the illusions you once clung to and brings you face to face with your truth. Pain is not your enemy. It is your mirror. It shows you what matters. It reveals what needs healing. And if you are brave enough to stop running, it will lead you, not to destruction, but to rebirth. So sit down, breathe deeply, let the ache speak. You don't have to fight it. You only have to feel it. And in feeling it, you begin the most important journey of all, the journey back home to yourself. 4. Attachment to what's gone is the root of suffering. One of the hardest truths to accept in life is that things change, and sometimes they never go back to how they were. People you loved leave, moments you cherished fade, places that once felt like home become strangers to you. You look at the past and long to return, thinking, if only I could go back, if only I could have one more moment, if only things had turned out differently. This is the quiet beginning of suffering, the place where attachment is born. Attachment doesn't mean love, it doesn't mean appreciation. Attachment means clinging. It means holding on to something so tightly in your heart that you become afraid to lose it, even after it's already gone. Buddhism teaches that suffering doesn't come from the loss itself, but from the way we resist that loss. We hold on to what no longer exists in the present. We carry memories like burdens, trying to relive them, trying to keep them alive through force, through longing, through mental repetition. And in doing so, we keep ourselves trapped, not in reality, but in what once was. When something or someone we love is taken from us, the pain is real. Grief is natural, sadness is human, but attachment turns that natural pain into prolonged suffering. We don't just feel the sadness, we keep reopening the wound by replaying the story. We ask ourselves endless questions, we blame ourselves, we build fantasies of how things could have been, and in this cycle, we forget to live. We stop seeing the beauty of the moment we are in because our eyes are fixed on a door that has already closed. Letting go is one of the most difficult practices in Buddhism because it requires complete honesty with yourself. It asks you to admit that no matter how deeply you loved, no matter how much something meant to you, it is no longer here in the same form. And instead of trying to drag the past into the present, it asks you to release your grip. Not to forget, not to erase, but to stop resisting the natural flow of life. Everything you've ever experienced was never meant to last forever. It was meant to teach you something, to touch you, to shape you, and then to pass. When we attach ourselves to what's already gone, we don't just suffer, we stop growing. We freeze ourselves in time, and the longer we stay attached, the more we disconnect from the life that is still unfolding around us. Letting go doesn't mean you stop loving someone. It doesn't mean their memory disappears. It means you stop holding them hostage in your heart. You allow them to rest. You allow yourself to rest. You allow life to take its next breath through you. Think of your attachments like trying to hold water in your hands. The tighter you grip, the faster it slips through your fingers. But when you open your hands, when you release the tension, the water gently rests in your palms. That's what letting go does. It doesn't take away the love or the memory, it just removes the suffering caused by resistance. You are allowed to miss what you've lost. You are allowed to cry over it, to honor it, to remember it. But you are not meant to live in that memory. You are meant to carry the lessons forward, to use what you felt to deepen your compassion, to widen your understanding of life, to soften the parts of you that had grown too rigid in control. Letting go is not the end, it is the beginning of healing. The Buddha said, "You only lose what you cling to." And sometimes what you're clinging to is not even the person or the thing, but the idea of what it meant to you. You are clinging to the meaning you gave it. And when you release that meaning, you open the door to new experiences. You allow your heart to receive again. You give yourself permission to move, to breathe, to feel the fullness of life, even with a scar on your heart. So ask yourself, gently and honestly, what am I still holding onto that no longer serves me? What memory have I turned into a cage? What part of my past am I using to avoid living in the present? And when the answer comes, don't judge it, don't fight it. Just begin the process of loosening your grip. With every breath, let go a little more. Not because you're forgetting, but because you're remembering something deeper, that you are still here, and life is not done with you yet. Your story did not end with what you lost. It began again with what you learned, and from this space of release, something new can finally grow. 4. Attachment to what's gone is the root of suffering. There is a kind of pain that doesn't scream. It doesn't tear through your chest like grief in its loudest form. It's quieter, it lingers. It visits you in the middle of your day when a memory touches you like a soft ghost. It knocks on your heart late at night when you're trying to rest. This pain doesn't come from the loss itself. It comes from something deeper, something more subtle. This is the suffering that grows out of attachment. You see, loss is natural. It happens to all of us. People leave, relationships end, moments pass, seasons change. And deep down we know this. We've heard it before. Nothing lasts forever. But knowing that truth and accepting it are two very different things. The mind hears the wisdom, but the heart clings. And it's in that clinging, silent, stubborn, often invisible even to ourselves, that our true suffering is born. Buddhism teaches that all suffering is rooted in attachment. Not love, not connection, but attachment. That desperate inner grip that says, don't change, don't leave, stay the same, be mine forever. It's that quiet voice inside you that cannot accept that the people you loved are no longer here in the same way. That the life you once had, the dream you once held, the version of yourself you used to be, that all of it has shifted, dissolved, evolved. And yet you keep trying to pull it back, like trying to hold on to smoke. You might say to yourself, but I loved them, I cared, how can I let go? And the answer is, letting go is not the opposite of love. In fact, it's the highest form of it. Letting go means you are no longer demanding that something or someone stay just to comfort your fears. Letting go is releasing the illusion of control and surrendering to the truth that life is impermanent, ever-changing, and outside of your grasp. When you are attached, you live in the past. You replay conversations in your head. You analyze what you could have done differently. You hold on to objects, pictures, words, anything that gives you a sense of connection to what once was. But the more you hold, the heavier your heart becomes. You stop living in the moment. You stop noticing the beauty that is still around you. You become so consumed by what's gone that you lose sight of what remains. There is no peace in clinging, no freedom in holding tightly to something that has already slipped away. And yet, so many people live their entire lives this way, haunted not by what happened, but by their refusal to let it go. That's why the Buddha's teachings are so radical and so liberating. He doesn't tell you to forget. He doesn't tell you to erase your feelings. He tells you to release your attachment to permanence, to stop demanding that things stay when they were never meant to. Imagine for a moment holding a beautiful flower in your hands. It blooms with color, with fragrance, with life, and then it begins to wilt. The petals curl, the scent fades. Would you try to glue each petal back? Would you force it to stay in bloom? Or would you honor it by letting it return to the earth and carry the memory of its beauty in your heart without needing to hold its body in your palm? That is what letting go truly means. It means honoring the memory, keeping the lesson, and releasing the weight. It means allowing the people who left to be at peace instead of dragging their absence into every new moment. It means trusting that even though something ended, your story didn't. You are still here, you are still evolving, and your life still has more beauty to unfold, but only if your hands are free to receive it. Letting go does not erase your connection. It doesn't invalidate your love. It doesn't mean what you had wasn't real. It simply means you are choosing to move with life rather than against it. You are choosing to soften instead of harden, to grow instead of remain frozen in a moment that has already passed. The more you release, the lighter you become. The less you demand permanence, the more you discover joy in impermanence. You begin to see the sacred in change, the divine in the unfolding, the beauty in things that don't last. That is the heart of the Buddhist path, learning to live with open hands, open eyes, and an open heart. And yes, there will be pain, there will be tears, but that is not weakness. That is your heart shedding what no longer fits. It is your soul breathing again after years of holding on too tightly. It is the quiet strength of someone who has accepted that what is meant for them will stay, and what is meant to leave will teach them. So ask yourself today, gently and without judgment, what am I still holding on to that no longer serves me? Whose voice am I replaying in my mind, trying to keep them alive? What old version of me am I still attached to, afraid to let go of? And what would it feel like? What would it really feel like to finally loosen my grip? Letting go is not an event. It is a daily practice, a quiet surrender, a soft exhale, and with every breath you take, you can begin again. You can unclench your heart, open your hands, and whisper to the universe, I am ready. I am not afraid to feel. I am not afraid to release. I trust the flow of life. I trust that what has ended has made me who I am, and I am ready to keep becoming. 5. Stillness is strength, not weakness. In a world that glorifies noise, movement, urgency, and relentless activity, stillness is often misunderstood. People think that if you are quiet, you are passive. If you are not reacting, you are weak. If you pause, you are falling behind. But Buddhism teaches something profoundly different. It teaches that stillness is not the absence of power, it is the highest expression of it. In fact, it is in stillness that true wisdom, healing, and strength begin to awaken. Look at nature. The strongest trees do not scream when the wind blows. They stand tall and firm in silence. The most powerful mountains do not shake at every thunderstorm. They endure. The calm surface of a still lake reflects the sky with perfect clarity. This is the power of stillness. It does not compete. It does not panic. It simply is, and in that presence, it becomes unshakable. Most of us are trained to react quickly, to respond to every insult, to answer every challenge, to prove ourselves, to be seen. But what if strength wasn't about reacting? What if real strength was the ability to not react, to watch, to wait, to choose your next move with clarity rather than impulse? What if silence, instead of being interpreted as weakness, was actually your greatest weapon against chaos? Stillness does not mean doing nothing. It means doing one thing, being completely present with yourself. It means stepping away from the noise of others' opinions, the pressure of the world's expectations, and the endless demands of your own mind. It means making space inside yourself where thoughts can rise and fall like clouds without controlling you. It means sitting down, breathing deeply, and saying to the moment, I am here. I am not afraid to be with what is. It is in stillness that you begin to see clearly. When the mind is agitated, everything becomes distorted. Pain feels bigger. Fear becomes louder. Problems seem impossible. But when you become still, it's like the surface of a muddy pond settling. What was murky becomes clear. What was confusing becomes simple. What felt unbearable becomes manageable. The Buddha often retreated into silence, not because he was avoiding the world, but because he was returning to the truth within himself. He knew that clarity doesn't come from constant talking. Peace doesn't come from endless doing. Insight comes from quiet observation, from looking inward without judgment, from allowing life to speak to you in the spaces between thoughts. When you are still, you notice things you couldn't see before. You begin to realize that not every problem needs an immediate solution. Not every criticism needs a defense. Not every emotion needs to be acted upon. You see the rise and fall of your fears, the waves of your anger, the flickers of your longing, and instead of becoming them, you observe them, you hold space for them without letting them take over. And in that awareness, you reclaim your power. Stillness also teaches you patience. In a world that rushes everything, success, healing, love, stillness reminds you that good things unfold in their own time. A flower doesn't bloom by force. The sun doesn't rise any faster because we're in a hurry. And your own healing will not deepen through pressure. It will deepen through space, through gentleness, through allowing. There is a kind of courage in choosing to be still when everything in you wants to fight, flee, or fix. There is bravery in choosing to pause when your mind screams for action, because in that pause, you break the cycle, you step out of unconscious reactions, you begin to respond to life, not from fear, but from presence. from balance, from clarity. This is not weakness, this is mastery. Stillness also gives you the chance to hear something sacred, your own inner voice, that soft, wise voice that gets drowned out by all the mental chatter. When you create silence within, you begin to hear the whisper of your own soul. And often it is not telling you to do more, it's telling you to let go, to rest, to trust, to simply be. And yes, being still can be uncomfortable at first. It means facing your thoughts, your emotions, your loneliness, the things you've been avoiding, but the discomfort is temporary. What lies beyond it is freedom. Because when you no longer fear stillness, you no longer need to run. And when you no longer need to run, you finally start to feel at home in yourself. In Buddhism, meditation is not about becoming someone new. It's about realizing you already are what you've been searching for. Stillness isn't a technique, it's a way of returning to the breath, to the moment, to the quiet, knowing that you are enough, that you don't need to perform to be worthy, that your value is not in how fast you can move, but in how deeply you can be present. So the next time life pushes you, don't always push back. Sit down, breathe, close your eyes, and instead of reacting, become still. Let the world swirl around you if it must, but you stay grounded like the mountain. Let the storm pass through you, not take you with it. Let the silence become your sanctuary, and in that silence you will find something that no one can give you and no one can take away. Your inner strength, your clarity, and your unshakable peace. 6. You are not the pain, you are the one aware of it. When pain arrives in your life, it often feels like it takes everything. It takes your peace. It takes your energy. Sometimes it even feels like it takes your identity. You begin to see yourself through the lens of your suffering. You stop saying, "I am going through a hard time," and instead whisper, "I am broken." You stop thinking, "This sadness is heavy," and instead internalize, "I am the sadness." Without even realizing it, you begin to merge your entire sense of self with the pain you feel. And this is where suffering begins to multiply, not in the original wound itself, but in the way we attach our identity to it. Buddhism offers a radical and deeply liberating insight. You are not your pain. You are not your fear. You are not your grief, your regret, your anxiety, your rage. You are the awareness behind all of it. You are the space in which it rises. You are the sky, and these emotions are only passing weather. Think of a storm rolling across the sky. Thunder crashes, rain pours, lightning strikes. For a moment it feels like chaos, but the storm always passes. The sky is not destroyed, it is not stained, it remains silent, open, unchanging in its essence. This is your true nature. You are the sky, not the storm. But when you forget this, when you start identifying with the storm, you suffer. You say, "I am the darkness," instead of seeing that darkness is simply moving through you. This teaching is not just philosophy, it is a practical shift in perception that can free you from years of emotional imprisonment. You may feel anxiety, but you are not anxiety. You may carry deep wounds, but you are not a wound. You are the consciousness witnessing the experience of pain, not the pain itself. The mind, however, is conditioned to label everything. When you feel sadness, it immediately says, "I am sad." When you feel lost, it says, "This is who I am now." But there is a moment, if you are present enough, where you can pause before that label takes hold. You can observe the emotion as if it were a visitor knocking at your door. You don't have to become it. You don't have to invite it in forever. You simply acknowledge its presence. This is the essence of mindfulness. It is the ability to notice what is happening within you without getting swept away by it. When you bring gentle awareness to your inner world, you begin to realize that your thoughts are not facts and your feelings are not permanent. They are like waves on the ocean, rising, cresting and falling. No matter how strong the wave, the ocean remains, deep, vast, unshaken. You may ask, but what about trauma? What about deep grief that doesn't go away? These are not small things. They live in the body. They echo in the mind. They show up in relationships, in decisions, in quiet moments when you think you're fine. Buddhism does not ask you to deny these things. It asks you to meet them with presence, with compassion, and most importantly, with the remembrance that they are not who you are. When you sit with your pain in meditation, or in silence, or in nature, you begin to feel the space between you and the sensation. You begin to recognize the part of you that is untouched, even by the most intense suffering. That part of you, the watcher, the witness, the deep self, is your true nature. It is always there, whether you are laughing or crying, at peace or in turmoil. To realize this is not to ignore your suffering, it is to place it in its proper place. You are not the prison, you are the one noticing the walls. And in that noticing, you begin to realize the door has always been open. One of the Buddha's greatest insights was that suffering is inevitable, but identification with suffering is optional. Pain will visit every human being. No one escapes it. But how we relate to that pain determines the quality of our life. If you believe the pain is your identity, you become its prisoner. But if you see the pain as a visitor, you can bow to it, learn from it, and let it pass. This shift is not instant. It is a practice. Every day you will be tempted to slip back into old stories. I'm not enough. I'll never heal. I am damaged. These thoughts will come. They are part of the human experience. But with mindfulness, you begin to catch them. You begin to say, there is the thought again. But I do not have to believe it. I can observe it. I can choose to let it go. And with each moment of choosing awareness over identification, you reclaim a little more of your freedom. Even your most painful emotions, when observed with compassion, begin to soften. They no longer feel like enemies. They feel like signals. They point to unmet needs, unhealed parts of your heart, and forgotten truths about yourself. And when you sit with them, not to judge them, but to understand them, they lose their grip. They stop being monsters and start becoming messengers. Imagine a deep cave within yourself. At the center of that cave burns a small but steady flame. That flame is your awareness, your true self. It cannot be extinguished, no matter how violent the storm above, no matter how loud the world becomes, no matter what happens to your body, your mind, or your circumstances. That flame continues, quiet, present, unmoving. When you begin to live from that flame instead of from your passing emotions, life starts to change. You become less reactive, less thrown by every shift in mood, less dependent on other people to validate you. You begin to feel grounded, not because life got easier, but because your center became stronger. The world may still be difficult. Challenges will still come, but you will face them differently. You will walk through them with the quiet confidence of someone who knows, I am not what is happening to me. I am the one it's happening through. This realization is not arrogance. It is humility in its truest form. It is saying, I am not these temporary roles. I am not this temporary body. I am not these swirling thoughts. I am something deeper, something eternal, something sacred. The journey to this awareness is not a straight line. Some days you will forget. You will feel consumed by emotion. You will collapse into old identities, but that's okay. Each time you remember, each time you return to presence, you build the muscle of awakening. You deepen your roots. You strengthen your connection to the part of you that cannot be broken. You are not broken. You are becoming aware of your wholeness. So the next time pain visits you, pause, breathe. Instead of saying, why is this happening to me? Try asking, who is the one noticing this pain? And then be still. Listen for the silence beneath the noise. The watcher is there, always. You don't have to get rid of your pain to find peace. You only have to remember who you are beneath it. That remembrance is the beginning of true liberation, and from that place, life no longer breaks you. It deepens you, it teaches you, it invites you to love even in the midst of sorrow, to stand even when your knees tremble, to breathe even when the world feels heavy. You are not the pain. You are the space in which the pain comes and goes. And that space, that still, sacred space, is limitless. 7. Let the pain shape you, not shatter you. Pain is one of the greatest teachers life can offer, yet it is also the one we resist most. When suffering touches our lives, our instinct is often to recoil, to reject it, to ask, "Why me?" We see pain as a punishment, as something cruel and senseless. We pray for it to end, to disappear, to leave us unchanged. But life does not work that way. Suffering is not random. It does not arrive without a purpose. Buddhism teaches that while pain is inevitable, how we relate to that pain defines the direction of our journey. Pain can either shatter you or shape you. It can close you off, or it can open you wide. It can harden you into bitterness or soften you into compassion. The choice, though difficult, is always yours. When pain strikes, it does not ask for permission. It enters like a wave, flooding the body, the heart, the mind. Sometimes it is triggered by a sudden loss, a betrayal, a broken dream. Other times it creeps in slowly, like a quiet ache that grows over time. But no matter how it comes, pain disrupts your sense of control. It humbles you. It brings you face to face with your own vulnerability. And in that vulnerability, a doorway appears. The doorway is not easy to walk through, but it leads to something sacred. You see, suffering invites you to see what lies beneath the surface of your life. When everything is comfortable, we often live on autopilot. We chase distractions, routine pleasures, surface-level goals. But when pain breaks through, all of that falls away. The illusions collapse, the masks come off. Suddenly, the questions become deeper. What truly matters? Who am I without all the things I thought defined me? What kind of person do I want to be, even in my darkest hour? Pain forces you to confront the truth of yourself, and in that confrontation, transformation begins. Buddhism teaches that the lotus flower, one of the most beautiful and sacred symbols of enlightenment, grows only in the mud. Without the mud, there is no lotus. Without the darkness, there is no light. Without the pain, there is no awakening. This is not just poetic language, it is spiritual truth. The suffering you endure is not here to destroy you. It is here to guide you deeper into yourself, to strip away what is false, to help you become someone more real, more whole, more awake. And yet, many people allow pain to define them in the wrong way. They carry their wounds like armor. They become angry, cynical, closed off. They stop trusting. They stop loving. They live their lives in defense, always protecting the part of themselves that once got hurt. But in doing so, they build walls so high that even healing cannot enter. They confuse survival with growth. They forget that healing is not about pretending it never happened. It's about choosing what happens next. To let pain shape you means to stay soft in the face of hardship. It means allowing yourself to feel fully, not just the hurt, but the depth that comes with it. Pain reveals how deeply you can care, how much your heart can hold. If you let it, pain will deepen your compassion for others. It will make you more gentle with those who are suffering. It will teach you that every person you meet is carrying something heavy, even if you can't see it. To be shaped by pain is not to glorify suffering. It is to honor the fact that suffering can be used as fuel for growth. It is to take the ashes of what was burned in your life and build something meaningful from them. The loss, the failure, the heartbreak, they don't have to be the end of your story. They can be the beginning of a wiser, more grounded chapter, but only if you let the pain teach you instead of allowing it to make you bitter. The truth is, pain brings up everything that was buried. It exposes fears you didn't know you had. It reveals insecurities you thought you had hidden. It touches wounds from the past that were never healed. And though it can feel overwhelming, this exposure is a gift. You cannot heal what you refuse to see. You cannot transform what you will not face. Pain brings the hidden into the light. And once it is in the light, you can work with it. You can breathe into it. You can hold it with love. And slowly, you can begin to release it. There is a Buddhist teaching that says suffering is like being shot with two arrows. The first arrow is the pain itself, the situation, the event, the heartbreak. The second arrow is how we respond to it, our resistance, our self-blame, our anger, our fear. While we may not control the first arrow, we always have a choice about the second. We can let it harden us, or we can allow it to soften us. We can tighten in resistance, or we can breathe into acceptance. And it is in that acceptance, not resignation, but deep presence, that healing begins. Letting pain shape you also means letting go of the idea that healing must be fast or clean. Healing is messy. It is non-linear. It is full of contradictions. Some days you feel strong. Other days you feel like you're back at the beginning. This is normal. This is human. Growth is not a straight line. It is a spiral. You revisit the same lessons, but each time from a deeper level. And each time you return, you bring more wisdom with you. The person you become after pain is not a weaker version of yourself. It is a more truthful one. A person who knows how to sit with discomfort, who knows how to listen to silence, who understands the value of tears, who has learned how to surrender control without giving up hope. This kind of person cannot be shaken easily, because their strength is not built on illusion. It is built on the courage to face life as it is. When you allow pain to shape you instead of shatter you, you also begin to see beauty in places you never looked before. You start to notice the stillness of a tree, the kindness in a stranger's smile, the miracle of your own breath. You begin to appreciate life, not just the good days, but the ordinary ones, the quiet ones, the ones you used to overlook. This is one of the gifts of suffering. It returns you to the present. It wakes you up to the fact that every moment is precious. Every moment is a chance to begin again. You may think your scars make you less whole, but in truth, they are part of your wholeness. They are the maps of where you've been. They are reminders that you endured, that you didn't give up, that even when the world tried to break you, you chose to stay. You chose to keep breathing. You chose to keep showing up. And that choice, made again and again in the face of pain, is a quiet form of greatness. Buddhism does not ask you to seek out suffering. It asks you to meet the suffering that finds you with presence, with compassion, with the understanding that this too is part of the path. Not an obstacle, but a gate. And beyond that gate is not more pain, but more depth, more clarity, more peace than you ever thought possible. So if you are hurting right now, if life feels too heavy, if your heart feels like it cannot carry one more loss, know this: you are being shaped, not shattered. This is not the end. This is a turning point, a chapter of refinement, a time of shedding the old so something new can rise. Don't rush it. Don't force it. Let the pain do its sacred work. Let it speak. Let it breathe. Let it be part of your becoming. And one day, not too far from now, you will look back at this moment with eyes that understand, with a heart that no longer bleeds, but beats stronger than ever. You will carry the wisdom of your pain not as a burden, but as a light for others. A reminder that the most beautiful souls are not the ones who never suffered, but the ones who chose to grow through it. Let the pain shape you. Let it teach you. Let it carve you into someone who walks this world, not with fear, but with grace. Not with a hardened heart, but with open hands. Not with anger in your voice, but with love in your silence. Let the pain shape you, not because you wanted it, but because you were brave enough to let it. And in doing so, you will not just survive, you will awaken. 8. The silent power of acceptance is greater than control. There is a quiet truth in this life that many people never discover, not because it is hidden, but because it is too simple, too still, too humble to be noticed by a mind constantly seeking control. That truth is this: acceptance is more powerful than control. The world tells you to fight, to push, to fix, to change everything that doesn't feel good, everything that doesn't go your way. But Buddhism invites you into a different kind of strength, a strength that doesn't shout, a strength that doesn't resist, a strength that rises not from force, but from letting go. To understand this, you must first look deeply at your own suffering. Where does it come from? Is it always the event itself that causes your pain? Or is it your refusal to accept that the event happened at all? Think of the heartbreak that lingers not just because someone left, but because you can't accept that they're gone. Think of the stress that grows not from what is, but from your insistence that it shouldn't be this way. The mind clings, it demands, it argues with reality, and in doing so, it creates a storm far greater than the situation itself. Buddhism teaches that suffering is not born from pain, it is born from resistance to pain. Pain is inevitable. You will lose, you will grieve, you will face illness, you will experience disappointment. These are the natural experiences of life, but resistance, fighting what is optional, and it is in this space between what has happened and how you relate to it that your power lives. Acceptance does not mean you approve of what happened. It does not mean you don't care. It does not mean giving up or giving in. It means seeing clearly. It means no longer wasting energy trying to change what already is. It means you stop arguing with the moment and instead choose to meet it as it is, with clarity, calm, and compassion. To accept something is not to lose your power. It is to stop losing it. When you resist life, you are at war with it. You tense your body, you clench your jaw, you harden your heart. And the very peace you are trying to find becomes impossible to reach. But when you breathe into acceptance, everything begins to soften. You stop trying to control the river and instead learn to float with it. You trust that even if the current feels strong, you're still being carried somewhere. Somewhere you may not understand yet, but somewhere you were always meant to go. Consider a tree in winter. The cold arrives, the leaves fall, the sky turns grey, but the tree does not resist. It does not scream at the wind. It does not try to glue its leaves back on. It simply stands, silent, accepting, trusting that spring will come in time. And because it does not waste energy resisting the season, it survives it. It remains rooted, and in its time, it blooms again. That is the wisdom of nature. That is the wisdom you must remember. Control feels good in the short term. It gives you the illusion of certainty. It makes you feel like you are safe, like you are winning. But in reality, control is fragile. Life does not obey your plans. People do not follow your expectations. And when control slips through your fingers, as it always does, you are left anxious, fearful, broken. Acceptance, on the other hand, may feel powerless at first. It may feel like surrender. But over time, it reveals itself to be the strongest ground you can stand on, because it does not depend on anything going your way. It is peace that is not tied to outcome. So many of us live in a constant state of internal resistance. We wake up wishing we felt different. We carry anger over things we cannot change. We revisit old memories trying to rewrite them. We build entire futures in our minds and then fall apart when reality takes a different path. But what if, instead of trying to control the uncontrollable, you learn to relax into the truth of what is? This does not mean you stop growing. It does not mean you stop working to improve your life, but it means that even as you move forward, you accept the moment you are in. You accept the place you're starting from. You stop rejecting the present as a mistake. And when you do, a kind of magic begins to unfold. You begin to feel less tense, less afraid, less scattered, because now, instead of fighting life, you are walking with it. Acceptance is also the foundation of compassion. When you accept your own pain, without judging it, you become more able to hold space for the pain of others. You stop trying to fix people. You stop trying to save them from their emotions. You simply sit with them. You say, yes, this is hard. Yes, this is real, and I'm here with you in it. This kind of presence, gentle, open, free of judgment, is one of the most powerful gifts you can offer, and yet acceptance is often misunderstood. People think it means passivity, that if you accept something, you are okay with it. But this is not true. You can accept a feeling while still choosing to act wisely. You can accept a situation while still working to improve it. You can accept your anger, your grief, your fear, and still choose not to let them guide your actions. Acceptance is not the end of action, it is the end of reaction. It creates space so you can respond with intention rather than reflex. The Buddha himself faced suffering. He saw sickness, aging, death. He did not run from it. He did not try to control it. He looked at it directly. He sat with it. He accepted it as part of the human condition. And through that deep acceptance, he found freedom, not from pain, but from the need to resist it. This is the path he offered to all of us, not to escape life, but to embrace it so fully that suffering loses its grip. When you practice acceptance, you begin to notice how much energy you used to spend on things you could never control. You begin to reclaim that energy, and suddenly you have more space to breathe, more space to listen, more space to love. Your life becomes less about forcing and more about flowing, less about proving and more about being. Try this the next time you feel overwhelmed. Pause. Breathe. Instead of asking, how do I fix this? Ask, can I accept that this is what's here right now? Don't rush to change it. Don't rush to solve it. Just be with it, even if only for a few breaths. You will be amazed at what happens when you stop fighting and start observing. The situation may not change, but your relationship to it will, and that changes everything. Acceptance does not mean pain disappears, but it does mean the pain becomes lighter, because now you are not adding layers of resistance to it. You are not saying, this shouldn't be happening. You are saying, this is happening, and I will face it with open eyes. That shift from resistance to presence is the foundation of true inner peace. Some of the most peaceful people in the world are not those who had easy lives, but those who learned to accept life as it came, who faced grief with grace, who held space for their sadness without needing to hide it, who embraced joy fully without clinging to it, who walked through uncertainty not with panic but with trust. These people were not lucky, they were present. They learned the silent power of acceptance, and it changed everything. So if you are tired of struggling, if your heart is weary from trying to control every piece of your life, come back to this truth. You were never meant to hold the whole world in your hands. You were only meant to meet this moment with love, with breath, with surrender. Let go of the illusion that things must go your way for you to be at peace. Peace is not found in control. It is found in the quiet courage to say, I accept this. I do not resist it. I do not run from it. I meet it as it is. That is not weakness. That is not giving up. That is the deepest kind of strength. And when you begin to live from this space, not someday, but now, you will feel something shift. A calm you didn't know you were capable of. A stillness you had long forgotten. And in that stillness, you will discover that life, even with all its unpredictability, is not your enemy. It is your teacher, and it has been waiting for you to stop resisting so it can finally show you who you really are. You can be at peace without having all the answers. There comes a time in every life when the questions begin to multiply, when nothing makes sense anymore. You ask, why did this happen to me? What did I do wrong? When will this pain end? What is the purpose of all this? And sometimes the silence that follows can feel like an even deeper pain. You wait for clarity. You wait for closure. You wait for some moment when the chaos inside you suddenly transforms into understanding. But it doesn't come. At least, not in the way you expected. And you start to believe that peace is impossible until you finally figure everything out. But Buddhism whispers a different truth. Peace does not arrive when every question is answered. Peace begins the moment you stop needing the answers to feel whole. The human mind is addicted to explanation. It craves certainty. It wants to label everything, control everything, resolve everything into neat categories. But life does not obey those rules. It is vast, mysterious, messy, beautiful, and full of unknowns. Trying to understand it all is like trying to trap the wind in your hands. You may feel it, but you cannot hold it. And in the attempt, you exhaust yourself. There will be experiences that do not make sense, losses that come without warning, people who leave without reason, doors that close when you thought they were just beginning to open. You will cry out to the sky and receive no clear reply. And it is in those moments that you are faced with a choice. Will you spend your life searching for explanations that may never come, or will you allow yourself to rest in the mystery? To rest in the mystery does not mean giving up on seeking truth. It means recognizing that some truths cannot be rushed. That wisdom is not always a flash of insight. It is sometimes the gentle unfolding of years. It means learning to breathe even when the future is unknown, to soften even when the path ahead is unclear, to sit down in the darkness and trust that even here, even now, life is still holding you. There is a kind of peace that only comes when you stop fighting for control over the unknowable. A peace that says, I do not need to understand everything to live with grace. I do not need to have all the answers to be present. I do not need to fix the past to honor it. I can be here exactly as I am, with open hands and an open heart. The Buddha himself taught that clinging to certainty leads to suffering, that freedom comes not from knowing, but from letting go. He did not offer all the answers. Instead, he offered a path, a way of living that brings you into alignment with the reality of impermanence, interdependence, and emptiness. And through that alignment, you discover that you do not need to hold the universe in your mind to be in harmony with it. Think of the moon reflected in a still lake. The moon does not demand that the water be clear before offering its light. It simply shines. And when the water is calm, it reflects back that light with perfect clarity. Your heart is the lake. Your peace is the reflection. And the more you try to stir the water with endless questions, the more distorted that reflection becomes. But when you stop, when you sit, when you breathe deeply and allow the water to settle, the clarity returns, not because you found the answers, but because you no longer needed them. So many people tie their peace to conditions. I'll feel okay when I get closure. I'll be happy when I finally understand why they left. I'll relax when I know what's going to happen next. But these are illusions. There is no perfect closure. There is no final answer that heals all wounds. What heals is presence. What soothes is acceptance. What liberates is the willingness to be here, now, in the middle of your questions, with compassion for your own confusion. To live without all the answers is not a failure. It is a spiritual maturity. It is the humility to admit that you are part of something greater than your mind can comprehend. It is the courage to stand in the unknown and still be kind, still be gentle, still love. This doesn't mean you stop asking questions. Questions can be sacred. They can guide your reflection, open your heart, lead you into deeper understanding. but ask them like a poet, not a prosecutor. Ask them not to dominate life, but to dance with it. Be willing to ask without demanding, to seek without urgency, to trust that if an answer matters, it will reveal itself in time, not always in words, but sometimes in silence, in peace, in the feeling that even though nothing has changed, you are somehow okay. The path of not knowing is not empty, it is rich with wonder. It teaches you to look at a flower without needing to name it, to watch a sunset without needing to measure its color, to hold someone's hand without knowing where the relationship will go. It teaches you that life is precious because it is fleeting, mysterious, unpredictable, and when you stop needing to solve it, you start truly living it. Think of the child who stares at the night sky, eyes wide with awe. They do not understand the cosmos. They do not know the science of stars, but they are at peace because they are present, because they are open, because they are not trying to own the sky, only feel it. That is the innocence we lose as we grow older. That is the innocence we must return to, not through ignorance, but through reverence. You can be wise and still not know. You can be healed and still not have every detail explained. You can be at peace, not because everything finally made sense, but because you finally stopped trying to force it to. Let your questions live like seeds in the soil of your heart. Some may blossom, some may remain beneath the surface, but they are alive, they are moving, and so are you. There is a rhythm to life that your mind cannot always grasp, but your soul can feel. Listen to that rhythm. Let it guide you. Let it remind you that peace is not waiting at the end of some long trail of answers. It is available right now in the space where you surrender your need to know. So if you are waiting for the perfect explanation to heal, stop waiting. Begin healing now. Begin by breathing into your uncertainty. Begin by saying, I don't know, and that's okay. Begin by trusting that you are still on the path, even if you can't see where it leads. The clouds may cover the mountain, but the mountain remains. Your peace is like that mountain, steady, silent, strong. The clouds of confusion may hide it for a while, but they will pass. The sun will rise. The path will reveal itself, not because you solved the puzzle, but because you learned how to walk, even when you couldn't see the full map. Peace is not found in knowing. It is found in trusting. Trusting that you are not lost. Trusting that this moment is enough, trusting that even your questions are part of the unfolding. And most of all, trusting that the more you surrender the need for answers, the more life will speak to you, not in explanations, but in presence, in stillness, in love. You can be at peace without having all the answers. You can rest even in the mystery. You can smile even in the unknown, because you are not here to figure it all out. You are here to live it, fully, lovingly, one breath at a time. Healing doesn't mean forgetting, it means releasing the weight. When we think of healing, we often imagine a perfect ending, a moment where the pain is gone, where the memory fades, where the past no longer touches the present. We long for the kind of healing that erases the hurt entirely, that turns the scars invisible, that lets us wake up one day and say, it's as if it never happened. But this expectation, while understandable, is the very reason many of us never truly feel free. Because healing, real healing, is not about forgetting. It is not about pretending that something painful didn't shape you. It is not about wiping the slate clean as if you were never broken. Healing, in the Buddhist sense, is about transforming your relationship with the pain. It's not the absence of memory. It's the absence of resistance. It's the moment when the story no longer holds you hostage, when it becomes something you can carry, not as a burden, but as a quiet strength. There are moments in your life that will leave marks, people who left too soon, words that wounded, decisions you wish you could undo, chapters you weren't ready to close. These moments will not disappear simply because you wish they would. They are etched into the story of your life. But what you do with those moments, that's where healing begins. So many people believe they are failing to heal because they still remember, because they still feel, because there are days when the sadness returns, or the anxiety reawakens, or the anger resurfaces like a wave they thought had already passed. But Buddhism reminds us, the goal is not to delete your humanity, it is to meet it with compassion. Healing does not mean you never cry again. It means you no longer drown when the tears come. The weight we carry is not always the pain itself. Often, it is the story we build around it. I should be over this by now. I shouldn't have let that happen. Why can't I just move on? These thoughts become bricks, heavy, suffocating, layer upon layer of self-blame, shame, guilt, until healing feels like climbing a mountain that keeps growing taller every time we take a step. But what if the path forward is not up, but inward? What if healing begins not when you conquer the pain, but when you sit beside it? When you stop trying to fix what happened and instead breathe into the truth that it happened, and you're still here? Releasing the weight doesn't mean discarding the memory. It means releasing the grip the memory has on your sense of identity. You can still remember the person who left and not feel bitterness. You can still think of the mistake you made and not feel crushed by shame. You can still revisit the moment everything changed and not be pulled under by it. This is what it means to heal, to remain aware of the past while no longer being controlled by it. In Buddhist practice, we are taught to observe the mind like watching clouds pass across the sky. We do not fight the thoughts. We do not chase them. We simply notice them and return to the breath. In this same way, healing invites us to observe our wounds, not to relive them, not to argue with them, but to offer them space, to allow them to rise and to let them pass. Not because they are unimportant, but because they no longer define the whole sky. The heart, like the body, knows how to heal if we stop picking at the wound. But healing is a process of deep trust. You have to trust that letting go of the weight doesn't mean letting go of love. That moving on doesn't mean betrayal. That peace is not betrayal of your past. It is a promise to your future. You are not dishonoring what you lost by choosing to live again. You are honoring it in the most sacred way possible by letting it become your teacher, not your prison. There is a story in Zen Buddhism of a monk who carried a heavy bag up a long mountain path. With every step, his back ached, his legs trembled. He looked at the other monks walking with ease and wondered why he could not do the same. Finally, a teacher stopped him and said, "Why do you carry this burden when it is no longer needed?" The monk replied, "Because it is all I have left of what once mattered." The teacher gently smiled and said, "Then make what once mattered part of your walk, not part of your weight." This is what healing invites you to do, to take what happened and fold it into the way you walk, the way you speak, the way you listen, the way you show up for others. Let the pain soften you, let the memories deepen you, but do not carry them like chains. Carry them like tools, tools that allow you to live with more wisdom, more compassion, more grace. It's important to understand that you may never feel finished. And that's okay. Some griefs live in you forever, not as open wounds, but as quiet reminders of your capacity to love, to endure, to begin again. Healing does not mean erasing the echo. It means the echo no longer stops you from singing. You may wake up some mornings and still feel the ache, the emptiness, the sorrow. This doesn't mean you haven't healed. It means you are human. Healing is not a one-time event. It is a lifelong practice, a daily surrender, a choice to keep showing up for yourself, even when the past whispers old stories in your ear. And you will be tempted to revisit those stories. The mind will try to convince you that you need to fix what's already over. That if you think about it long enough, analyze it deeply enough, you'll finally find the perfect answer. But no amount of thinking will undo the past. The only real peace is found in presence, in learning how to feel fully, forgive gently, and live freely. Forgiveness is a part of healing, but not in the way the world often portrays it. It's not about saying what happened was okay. It's not about absolving others of responsibility. It's about freeing yourself from the cycle of pain. It's about choosing not to let anger be the lens through which you see the world. It's about choosing softness, not because you're weak, but because you're wise enough to know that hardness only adds more suffering. To forgive is to say, "This happened. I can't change that, but I can choose what I do with it now." And sometimes the person you need to forgive most is yourself, for the things you didn't know, for the things you couldn't stop, for the way you survived, for how long you carried the weight. Be gentle with that part of you. They were doing their best. In Buddhist meditation, there is a practice called metta, loving kindness. It is a practice of offering compassion to yourself and others. And when you sit in metta meditation, you repeat quietly, "May I be well, may I be safe, may I be free from suffering." You extend that same wish to those you love, and eventually to those who hurt you, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve to be free. Healing is the long return to love for yourself, to love for others, to love for life itself, even when it's been messy, painful, uncertain. You may never forget what happened, but you will no longer be held down by it. You will walk taller, breathe easier, speak softer, because now you're not walking with wounds, you're walking with wisdom. So if you are carrying something heavy right now, something you've carried for far too long, know this: you are not weak for struggling. You are not broken because it still hurts. You are simply human, and your heart, even now, is learning how to heal. Give it time, give it space, give it breath. And when the weight feels lighter, not because it's gone, but because you've learned how to carry it differently, know that you have already begun the healing you once thought was impossible. You do not need to forget what happened to find peace. You only need to release the belief that you must carry the pain forever. Let it go, gently, slowly, with love, and keep walking. You are becoming whole, not by erasing the past, but by making peace with it. True strength is the courage to stay soft in a hard world. In a world that often values power over presence, noise over stillness, and reaction over reflection, we are taught to build walls instead of bridges. We are taught to harden ourselves to survive. Don't let anyone see you cry. Never show weakness. Be strong. But what does strength really mean in a world so afraid of softness? So many of us confuse strength with control. We believe strength means keeping a straight face when our heart is breaking. We believe it means burying our emotions so we don't look vulnerable. We believe it means walking away before we get too close, or speaking louder so no one hears our trembling voice. And in doing so, we forget something sacred, that softness is not the opposite of strength. It is a deeper, truer form of it. A strength that doesn't protect through armor, but through authenticity. Buddhism does not define strength as domination. It defines it as equanimity, the balanced mind that does not cling to praise nor collapse under blame. It defines it as compassion, the willingness to open your heart again and again, even after it's been hurt. It defines it as mindfulness, the steady awareness that notices the pain, the joy, the confusion, and meets it all with gentleness. True strength is not the refusal to feel. It is the willingness to feel fully and not be swept away. It is allowing grief to move through you without turning it into bitterness. It is feeling fear without letting it shut your heart. It is choosing to love when it would be easier to close, to listen when it would be easier to defend, to remain kind when the world gives you every excuse not to be. Imagine a flower growing in the cracks of a stone wall. It is small, delicate, easily overlooked, and yet it grows anyway, without demanding attention, without needing permission. It faces the sun. It opens. That is strength, not in how loud it is, not in how protected it is, but in its willingness to stay soft in a place that was not designed for softness. There is a story in Buddhist tradition of a monk who was known for his gentle demeanor. A student once asked him, "How are you so calm in the face of conflict? How do you stay kind to people who insult you?" The monk replied, "Because I do not confuse their actions with my identity. I do not mirror what I see. I respond with what I choose to be." That is real power. The power to respond, not react. The power to stay rooted in your values, even when others abandon theirs. Staying soft does not mean letting others walk over you. It does not mean tolerating abuse. It does not mean saying yes when you mean no. Softness is not weakness. It is clarity. It is knowing that your energy is too sacred to be wasted in rage, that your peace is more precious than winning a petty argument, that you do not have to raise your voice to be heard. You only have to speak with truth. Softness requires boundaries. It requires discernment. It requires the wisdom to step away from people and places that demand you become someone you are not. But even as you walk away, you do not close your heart. You do not let pain turn you into someone unrecognizable. You do not let betrayal teach you that love is a mistake. You allow the lesson to shape you, but not harden you. Because once you harden, everything becomes a battle. Every conversation is a war. Every new person is a potential threat. You live guarded, disconnected, always ready to protect, but rarely ready to connect. You become your own prisoner, behind walls built for safety, but surrounded by loneliness. And deep inside, your true self, gentle, loving, alive, is waiting to return. But to be soft is not to be naive. It is not to ignore the darkness of the world. It is to see the darkness and choose to bring light anyway. To be soft is to stay tender, even when it's not fashionable. To be the one who listens while others shout. To be the one who forgives while others cling to resentment. To be the one who slows down while the world races past. The Buddha's path is the middle path, not indulgence, not denial, not hardness, not helplessness. It is balance. And in that balance, softness has a sacred place. Softness is what allows you to be present with suffering without running. It is what allows you to hold the hand of someone grieving, not because you have the right words, but because your presence is enough. It is what allows you to say, "I don't have all the answers, but I'm here. I'm with you." True strength is the mother who still sings to her child, even when her heart is weary. It is the elder who smiles, despite the pain of aging. It is the person who chooses kindness when they themselves are starving for it. It is the monk who bows to the earth every morning, not because the earth demands it, but because reverence is his language of living. And sometimes the softest acts are the bravest, saying, "I'm sorry" when pride screams otherwise, saying, "I love you" when fear says you shouldn't, letting go when your ego begs to hold on. These are not signs of weakness. These are signs of wisdom. They show that you understand life is not a competition, it is a communion. It is not about being right, it is about being real. In a world that often rewards detachment, staying emotionally alive is an act of resistance. To feel deeply in an age of numbing is courageous. To remain open when so many are closed is spiritual rebellion. Every time you choose to stay soft, you choose love over fear. You choose awareness over avoidance. You choose your higher self over the ego. And no, it won't always be easy. Your kindness will be misunderstood. Your gentleness will be mocked. Your calmness will be mistaken for passivity. But remember, the ocean does not explain its stillness to the storm. The moon does not justify its glow to the darkness. You do not need to defend your softness. You only need to embody it. When you live this way, rooted in softness, grounded in compassion, people will begin to feel something different in your presence. Not judgment, but safety. Not noise, but depth. They will feel seen, heard, held. Not because you try to fix them, but because your being offers refuge. And that is the highest form of strength, to become a place where others can return to themselves. So if you feel things deeply, do not apologize. If your heart breaks easily, do not harden it. If the world feels overwhelming, do not shut it out. Let yourself be touched by life. Let yourself be moved. Let yourself cry when the moment asks for tears, and laugh when joy bubbles up without warning. Let your softness be your superpower. Because this world does not need more armored hearts. It needs more open ones. It needs people who know how to kneel, not just rise, who know how to pause, not just push, who know how to say, I am here, I feel this, I will not close. Let the world harden if it must. But you, stay soft, not because it's easier, but because it's real, not because it's safe, but because it's sacred, not because it changes them, but because it transforms you. And in the end, your softness will not break you. It will build you. It will deepen you. It will return you to the truth that was always inside you. That you are not here to win. You are here to love. And the deepest love is the love that remains tender, even when the world forgets how to be. You don't need to rush to be whole. You are already becoming. In this fast-moving world, we are told from all sides to keep up, to keep improving, to move quickly, to always be doing something, healing faster, growing faster, fixing ourselves until we become some perfect version that finally feels worthy of rest. We race from one phase of life to another as if life is a checklist and wholeness is something to be earned only after we've completed every task and overcome every flaw. But Buddhism gently asks you to stop, to slow your breath, to look within, and to realize that you are not incomplete just because you are still in process. You don't need to rush to be whole. You are already becoming. The truth is, becoming whole is not about reaching a final destination where everything is perfectly aligned and nothing ever hurts again. It is not a moment when your past disappears or when all your scars suddenly heal at once. Becoming whole is not an achievement. It is not something you unlock by following some formula, nor is it something you have to prove to anyone else. It is something much softer, much deeper, much more alive. It is a quiet unfolding, a slow return to the truth that was always within you, that you are not broken, you are simply unfolding. But we forget this truth. We forget because the world around us rewards performance more than presence. It teaches us to compare our lives to others, to measure our progress by what we can see on the outside. We see someone smiling and think they've figured it all out. We see someone successful and assume they have no struggles. We believe we are falling behind when really we are just in a different chapter of becoming. No flower blooms on demand, no mountain forms overnight, no tree grows tall without first spending years building invisible roots. Yet we expect ourselves to be fully healed, fully wise, fully certain before the season has even passed. We treat pain like a mistake instead of a teacher. We treat confusion like a flaw instead of a sign that our soul is asking for something deeper. And in doing so, we miss the sacredness of where we already are. Buddhism teaches that all things arise, change, and pass away. There is no final version of the self. There is only this moment and the awareness you bring to it. You are not here to become a perfect being. You are here to become present with your being. You are here to walk the path, not to skip ahead to the end. Think of a river. It flows not in a straight line, but through curves and bends, through still pools and roaring rapids. It does not question its pace. It does not compare its flow to other rivers. It simply moves, carrying everything it touches, shaping the land without even trying. This is how you become whole, not by force, not by rushing, but by allowing your life to unfold as it will, trusting that even the slow parts, even the painful turns, are part of the shaping. And yes, there will be days when you feel stuck, days when your progress feels invisible, days when the old patterns return and you wonder if you've gone backward. But healing is not linear. Growth is not a staircase. Becoming whole is not about moving upward, it's about moving inward. It's about sitting with what is here right now and choosing not to abandon yourself, even when you don't have all the answers. You don't have to have everything figured out today. You don't have to wake up with clarity every morning. You don't have to be finished with your pain, your grief, your uncertainty. You are not late. You are not behind. You are not failing. You are simply living. And living includes mystery, messiness, and moments of pause. Let those pauses be sacred. Let those slow days be part of your rhythm. Let your confusion be honored, not shamed. In Buddhist meditation, we are taught to observe the breath, not to control it, not to perfect it, but to notice it, to sit quietly and return to it again and again. No matter how far the mind wanders, we return to the breath. And each time we return, we are practicing wholeness. Not by becoming something new, but by remembering the self that exists underneath the noise. This is what your life is asking you to do, to return to yourself. Not as a project to fix, but as a home to rest in. Wholeness is not the absence of pain, it is the presence of love. Love for the self who is still figuring it out. Love for the version of you that is healing slowly. Love for the small victories no one else sees. Wholeness is not perfection. It is integrity. It is the alignment of your heart with your truth. It is waking up and saying, I don't have to be anyone else today. I just have to be here, and that is enough. You are not missing pieces. You are not unfinished. You are in motion. You are evolving. Every time you breathe through a difficult moment without running, you are becoming. Every time you offer yourself compassion when the world offers you criticism, you are becoming. Every time you choose stillness over distraction, you are becoming. And each moment of becoming is a sacred thread in the tapestry of your life. Stop waiting to feel complete before you live. Stop believing that peace is somewhere far away. Peace is not waiting for you at the end of your journey. It is quietly walking beside you, whispering, slow down. You're doing better than you think. Peace is not the reward, it is the companion. So take your time. Let your healing be slow. Let your becoming be gentle. Let your path be your own. Not everyone will understand your pace, and that's okay. Some people will rush past you. Others will tell you to move faster, but only you can feel the rhythm of your soul. Only you know when you need to rest, when you need to breathe, when you need to simply be. And even when you can't feel it, know this: you are already whole. Not because you are finished, but because you are real, because you are honest, because you are choosing to meet yourself with kindness instead of urgency. The cracks you carry do not make you less. They make you more human. They make you relatable. They make you compassionate. They allow the light to enter. In Zen, there is a concept called wabi-sabi, the beauty of things imperfect, impermanent, and incomplete. It reminds us that the chipped bowl, the weathered wood, the asymmetrical vase all carry a kind of beauty that perfection can never offer. You are wabi-sabi. You are beautiful, not despite your flaws, but because of them. You are whole, even with your uneven edges. You are sacred, even in your silence. Do not rush your blooming. Some flowers open in the morning, others open at night. Some only bloom once in a lifetime. You do not need to match anyone's pace. You only need to honor your own. And in doing so, you will discover that there is a kind of peace that cannot be earned, only remembered. You were never broken, you were only learning how to return. So breathe, dear soul, let the world move as it must. But you, stay present with your breath, with your heart, with this exact moment, and trust. You are already becoming. Freedom begins the moment you stop fighting yourself. There is a kind of suffering that hides behind every achievement, every perfectly curated smile, every act of self-discipline. It's not the pain that others inflict, it's the war we wage within ourselves. The constant judging, correcting, comparing, punishing, the inner voice that whispers, "You're not doing enough, you're not strong enough, you're still not who you should be." We carry this invisible burden through life, believing that we must constantly improve ourselves to earn peace, to be worthy, to finally rest. But Buddhism teaches something profoundly different. It doesn't ask you to fix yourself. It invites you to make peace with yourself. It doesn't ask you to become someone new. It asks you to remember who you were before the world convinced you that you were not enough. And it is in that remembering, in that gentle return, that true freedom begins. Freedom is not the absence of difficulty. It is the absence of self-conflict. It is the quiet inner space where you are no longer torn in half by shame, guilt, and impossible expectations. It is what arises when you stop fighting who you are, what you feel, and where you are on your journey. The truth is, we have been trained to believe that self-criticism is the path to growth, that if we are hard enough on ourselves, we will finally become better. But this belief creates an endless loop. No matter how much you grow, the voice says it's still not enough. You improve one area and the voice points to another. You heal a wound and the voice reminds you of another scar. You never arrive because you are fighting yourself instead of walking with yourself. Imagine carrying a child on a long journey. The child is tired, stumbling, crying. Would you scold them for being slow? Would you shame them for needing to rest? Or would you hold them gently, wipe their tears and whisper, "It's okay, I've got you"? That is the way you must learn to speak to yourself. That is what Buddhism means when it speaks of compassion, not just for others, but for your own tired, beautiful, trying soul. The Buddha taught that the root of suffering is attachment, and one of the most painful attachments is the attachment to an image of who we think we're supposed to be. We cling to that idealized version of ourselves and compare every moment, every emotion, every mistake against it. And when we inevitably fall short, we turn on ourselves. We resist our own humanity. We reject our own pain. We suppress the parts of us that don't match the image. But what if freedom is not about becoming better, but becoming whole? What if the real transformation begins, not when you achieve more, but when you stop turning against yourself every time you fall? To stop fighting yourself does not mean giving up. It does not mean you stop growing. It means you grow with gentleness instead of aggression. It means you heal with understanding instead of force. It means you rest when you're tired, not punish yourself for needing rest. It means you allow yourself to feel sadness without calling it weakness, to feel joy without fearing that it's undeserved, to feel anger without assuming you are wrong. There is a Zen proverb, "The obstacle is the path." And sometimes the biggest obstacle is the belief that you must fight yourself into becoming who you want to be. But you cannot beat yourself into peace. You cannot shame yourself into light. You cannot hate yourself into love. You can only return again and again to a softer way, a way that begins with acceptance. Acceptance is not resignation. It is not saying, "This is just how I am and I'll never change." It is saying, "This is where I am right now, and that is okay." It is the beginning of honest, grounded growth. Because when you stop using your energy to resist yourself, you free that energy to support yourself. And it's important to understand, your mind will resist this shift. It will tell you that self-criticism is necessary, that if you're too kind to yourself, you'll become lazy, weak, unmotivated. But this is a lie born from fear. In truth, people flourish in environments of love. A plant grows not from being yelled at, but from being watered, tended, held by sunlight. And you are no different. The inner war we carry is often inherited. It comes from years of being told, directly or indirectly, that our worth is conditional, that we must prove ourselves, that we must be useful to be loved, that we must be perfect to belong. And without realizing it, we internalize those messages. They become the voice inside us. But just because that voice is loud does not mean it is true. Buddhist practice teaches us to observe the mind, not to obey it blindly, but to see it clearly, to notice the thoughts that arise and ask, is this helpful? Is this kind? Is this true? And if the answer is no, we learn to let it go, not with force, but with compassion. Like placing a feather on the surface of a still lake, we return to breath, we return to presence, we return to ourselves. There will be days when this practice feels impossible, when the old voice grows loud, when the old habits return, when you feel like you're back at the beginning. That's okay. Progress in this path is not measured by how often you fall, it is measured by how gently you rise. Every time you notice yourself fighting and choose to pause instead of push, that is freedom. Every time you speak to yourself with kindness instead of cruelty, that is liberation. Every time you say, I may not be perfect, but I will not abandon myself, that is the moment you reclaim your power. To be free is to make peace with being human. It is to accept that you will never be flawless, that you will hurt, that you will doubt, that you will long for things that cannot last. And still, you can love, you can grow, you can create, you can breathe, you can be here, and that is enough. Think of a tree swaying in the wind. It bends, but it does not break. Not because it fights the wind, but because it allows the movement. It trusts its roots. It knows it is grounded. That is what happens when you stop fighting yourself. You do not become rigid, you become resilient. You do not collapse, you bend. You do not lose control, you gain harmony. There is a peace that waits for you beyond self-rejection, a silence that lives beneath all the noise of not enough, a light that shines quietly in the heart, even when you forget it is there. You do not need to search the whole world to find it. You only need to sit still long enough to stop running from yourself. So if you are tired, not just physically but spiritually, tired of always pushing, always fixing, always proving, this is your invitation to rest, to come home to yourself, to lay down the sword you've been carrying against your own chest. You were never meant to live in battle. You were meant to live in peace. Start small. Begin with a breath. Inhale, I am here. Exhale, and that is enough. Begin with one moment of kindness toward yourself. One decision not to criticize, one moment of permission to feel, and then another and another. Until slowly, like the sky clearing after a storm, you begin to feel it. That soft, spacious freedom that arises not from changing who you are, but from loving who you are becoming. Freedom does not come when the world finally approves of you. Freedom comes when you no longer seek the world's permission to approve of yourself. Let that be your practice. Not self-improvement, but self-liberation. Not perfection, but presence. Not a war to win, but a home to return to. Because the moment you stop fighting yourself, you begin to walk through life not as a problem to be solved, but as a sacred process unfolding. And there, in the middle of that unfolding, you realize something profound. You were never your mistakes. You were never your doubts. You were never your pain. You were always the one who witnessed, the one who endured, the one who stayed. And that is where your freedom begins. Suffering diminishes the moment, you stop resisting what is. We often believe that suffering comes from what happens to us, from the heartbreak, the illness, the failure, the betrayal, the chaos that enters our life uninvited. But the deeper truth, gently offered by the Buddha and whispered through centuries of practice, is that suffering is born not from pain itself, but from our resistance to it. It is the pushing away, the inner protest, the tight clench of "this shouldn't be happening," that turns pain into suffering and discomfort into agony. We live in a culture that conditions us to believe that all unpleasantness is a problem to solve, an obstacle to remove, or a flaw to fix. We are taught to view sadness as a defect, grief as weakness, uncertainty as danger. We are encouraged to stay positive, move on, look on the bright side, and take control. And while intention may be kind, these messages reinforce a dangerous belief that reality must always bend to our will, that pain must be resisted at all costs, that if we do it right, life will only give us what we like. But life does not work like that. It never has. No matter how carefully we plan, no matter how good we try to be, we will all encounter pain, and the more we fight it, the more we suffer. What we resist persists. What we reject controls us. And the only way out, the only true freedom, comes the moment we stop resisting what is. To stop resisting is not to approve of what's happening. It is not to become passive or indifferent. It is to meet reality with open eyes and an open heart, even when it hurts. It is to say, "This is here. This is what life has brought to me right now. I may not understand it. I may not like it, but I will not turn away from it." That is the beginning of peace, not the removal of discomfort, but the acceptance of it. In Buddhist practice, this teaching is called radical acceptance. It means accepting the full reality of the present moment, just as it is, without judgment, without avoidance, without needing to change it immediately. You accept the fear, the tension, the grief, the aching in your chest. You stop arguing with the experience. You stop labeling it as wrong. And in doing so, something powerful happens. The suffering begins to loosen its grip. It doesn't mean the pain goes away, but it begins to soften. It begins to move. It begins to reveal its hidden message, not as a punishment, but as a teacher. Because every emotion you resist is trying to tell you something. Every moment you reject is offering you something. And when you stop resisting, you start listening. And when you start listening, you start learning. And when you start learning, you begin to heal. Resistance is tension. It is the body tightening against what is. It is the jaw clenching, the fists closing, the breath becoming shallow. It is the nervous system going into battle mode. But acceptance is release. It is the shoulders dropping, the breath deepening, the hands opening, the body saying, "I am safe to feel this. I am safe to be with this." And in that shift from resistance to presence, you reclaim your power, not by controlling the experience, but by becoming larger than it. Pain is a part of life, but suffering, the mental and emotional turmoil we add to that pain, can be transformed. It can be softened through awareness, through compassion, through surrender. Let's take a simple example. Imagine you are stuck in traffic on a day when you are already tired. The pain is the situation itself, the delay, the noise, the exhaustion. But what creates suffering? The thoughts. "This shouldn't be happening. I'll be late. Why is this happening to me? I can't handle this." The resistance amplifies the stress. But if you take a deep breath, return to the body and say, "Okay, this is what's happening right now. I am in traffic. I am tired. Let me just breathe." The moment becomes manageable. You didn't change the external condition, but you transformed your inner relationship to it. Now consider deeper suffering, loss, grief, heartbreak, fear. The pain is real, and it must be honored. But what intensifies it is our mind's protest. This is unfair. I shouldn't feel this. This isn't what I planned. I can't survive this. These thoughts, while natural, are born from resistance. They close the heart. They tighten the breath. They deepen the wound. But when you pause and say, "This is here, this hurts, I don't have to like it, but I will not abandon myself because of it," you begin to shift. You begin to sit with your pain instead of run from it. And it is in that sitting, in that sacred stillness, that suffering begins to dissolve, not because the pain is gone, but because you are no longer at war with it. The Buddha used the metaphor of the second arrow. The first arrow is the pain life brings, things we cannot avoid. The second arrow is the one we shoot ourselves, the mental resistance, the story, the blame. We may not control the first arrow, but we can choose whether to shoot the second, and every time we choose acceptance over resistance, we drop the second arrow. We stop harming ourselves with judgment, with fear, with the illusion that we must control everything. This doesn't mean you stop feeling. Quite the opposite. Acceptance allows you to feel more deeply, because now you are no longer suppressing or fighting what arises. You are creating space for the emotion to rise, move through, and pass, like a wave that crashes, recedes, and leaves stillness behind. The greatest suffering often comes from the belief that life must always match our expectations. But life does not owe us predictability. It does not owe us perfection. It only offers what it offers, and our freedom lies in how we choose to meet it. We can resist and suffer, or we can soften, surrender, and awaken. Surrender is not giving up. It is giving in to the truth of what is. It is saying, "I trust life more than I trust my fear. I trust the process more than I trust my control. I trust that even this has something to teach me, even if I don't yet understand it." And this trust grows with practice, through meditation, through mindfulness, through quiet moments where you sit with yourself and feel what needs to be felt, through breath, through presence, through the daily choice to turn toward life instead of away from it. You may not be able to stop the storm, but you can learn how to rest in the eye of it. You can learn how to breathe through it. You can learn how to say, "Even this belongs. Even this pain, even this uncertainty, even this moment is part of the path." And as you do, you begin to see suffering not as an enemy, but as a guide, not as something to run from, but as something that can point you back to the parts of yourself that need love, that need holding, that need permission to exist. Let your suffering be a doorway, not a wall. Let it open you. Let it deepen you. Let it humble you into tenderness. Let it remind you that you don't have to be perfect, strong, or in control to be at peace. You only have to be present, honest, awake. So the next time suffering arises, pause, breathe. Instead of saying, "I can't handle this," say, "This is here. I can be with this." Instead of saying, "Why me?" say, "Even this is part of my becoming." Instead of resisting, allow, and watch how even the sharpest pain begins to soften in the presence of awareness. This is the teaching. This is the path. Not to eliminate pain, but to end the unnecessary suffering that comes from resistance. To rest, not in the illusion of control, but in the truth of surrender. To live not in fear of what might arise, but in trust that you are strong enough to meet it. Suffering begins to diminish the moment you stop fighting what is. And in that stillness, in that breath, in that sacred space of allowing, you find what you were searching for all along. Not escape, but peace. Let life flow without forcing it. Peace comes when you stop gripping so tightly. There is an invisible tension that most people carry without realizing it. It lives in the shoulders, in the jaw, in the thoughts that loop restlessly through the mind. It speaks through words like, "I have to," "I need to." Why hasn't it happened yet? It's the silent grasping of a heart trying to force the future to arrive faster, to make people behave differently, to bend the world to its plans. And yet, in all that gripping, all that striving, all that internal pushing, what is found? Not freedom, not joy, not ease, but exhaustion, frustration, resistance. We grip because we are afraid. We are afraid that if we don't control everything, everything will fall apart. We are afraid that if we don't chase, we will be forgotten. That if we don't plan, we will fail. That if we don't stay one step ahead, we will be swallowed by life's unpredictability. And so we hold. We tighten. We push. We try to outsmart impermanence. But no matter how tightly we grip, life continues to move in its own way, on its own time, with its own wisdom. Buddhism teaches that the more we cling, the more we suffer. The more we grasp, the more we miss what is already here. The more we try to force outcomes, the more we lose the opportunity to live in flow. The practice, then, is not to make life submit to us, but to learn how to trust it, to soften, to release, to walk gently alongside the river of life instead of trying to dam it at every turn. Think of water. It flows naturally. It does not ask for permission. It does not force its way forward. It finds the path of least resistance. When it meets a rock, it does not fight the rock. It moves around it, slowly, gracefully, trusting that forward movement will always return if it remains fluid. That is how peace lives, not in rigidity, but in surrender, not in grasping, but in letting go. But letting go does not mean letting life passively happen. It means releasing the illusion that we can control every detail. It means showing up with full presence, full sincerity, full intention, while releasing our demand for specific outcomes. It means doing our part, and then loosening our grip on how things unfold. You can have goals, you can have dreams, you can pursue what matters to you, but you do so with open hands, not clenched fists. You do so with the understanding that some things will come and some things will not. That some doors will open and others will close. That life's timing may not match yours, but it is not wrong. It is simply different, and perhaps wiser than you can yet understand. The suffering comes when we say, this must happen, and it doesn't. Or, this must not change, and it does. Or, I should be there by now, and we're not. These thoughts are rooted in resistance to the present moment. They place peace in the future, they tie happiness to a condition, and they keep you chasing something that may not even exist. But when you let go, when you allow the moment to be what it is, you stop chasing and start receiving. You stop forcing and start aligning. You begin to see that what is here, right now, is not a mistake. That even the delay, even the confusion, even the pause is part of a greater unfolding. Buddhism teaches that everything is impermanent, the good moments, the bad ones, the in-betweens. All things rise and pass. When we try to freeze them, to hold them in place, to make them last forever or arrive faster, we suffer. But when we let them move, when we trust the coming and the going, we find a rhythm that brings ease. Letting go is not a one-time event, it is a daily practice. Every day, the mind will try to control, to grip, to solve life like a puzzle. And every day, you return to the breath, you return to the body, you return to the present. You remind yourself, this moment is enough. I do not need to force it to be different. In meditation, we often watch the breath. Inhale, exhale. Not to control it, but to witness its natural rhythm. We don't force it to be deeper, we don't rush it, we just sit with it. And in that sitting, the body softens, the mind quiets, peace arises. Not because we achieved something, but because we stopped trying to. The same is true in life. The more we align with the natural rhythm of our existence, the more space we create for wisdom to emerge. We begin to see the truth we missed while rushing, that some things take time for a reason, that some doors stay closed because we are not yet ready, that some delays are gifts wearing the disguise of frustration. Let life unfold. Trust that not everything you lose is a loss, that not everything you want is meant for you, that not everything you planned is what your soul actually needs. Let the plans change. Let the map shift. Let the tide pull you somewhere you didn't expect. And instead of asking, "Why is this happening?" begin asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" The more you resist the flow of life, the more tangled you become in it. But when you let go, truly let go, you become like the tree that bends in the wind, not breaks. Like the bird that trusts the air beneath its wings. Like the wave that rises, knowing it will fall, and still dances anyway. You may wonder, if I stop pushing, will I lose my path? But letting go doesn't mean you stop moving. It means you move from alignment, not anxiety, from clarity, not compulsion, from presence, not pressure. And this kind of movement is far more effective, far more meaningful, far more peaceful than the frantic energy of constant control. There will be moments when you forget, when fear returns, when you start gripping again. That's okay. The practice is not perfection. The practice is remembering. Each time you notice the grip, you have a choice. You can hold tighter, or you can breathe, soften, release, trust. And the more you practice this release, the more you begin to feel a deep shift. Life begins to feel less like a struggle and more like a conversation. You begin to work with life, not against it. You begin to feel supported, not punished. You begin to realize that peace was never waiting at the end of your effort. It was waiting in the space where effort ends. Peace is not something you earn by doing more. It is something you remember by doing less, by sitting, breathing, listening, trusting, by saying, "I don't need to force this moment to be anything other than what it is." You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to slow down. You are allowed to not know what comes next. You are allowed to take your hands off the steering wheel and let life carry you for a while. You are allowed to trust that you are still becoming, even when you are still. So release the grip, soften the mind, loosen the jaw, let the tension melt from your shoulders. Let your breath deepen, let your heart open, let life flow, not as you planned, but as it will. And in that flow, you will discover a peace more profound than anything you could force. Because peace was never found in controlling the current. It was always found in learning how to float. You don't heal by rushing the process. You heal by trusting the unfolding. Healing is not a race. It is not a straight line. It is not a calendar event where wounds vanish by a specific date. It is a deep, mysterious, non-linear unfolding that rarely matches our expectations. In a world that moves faster every day, where speed is praised, productivity is glorified, and progress is measured in quick results, healing asks something very different of us. It asks us to slow down, to listen, to surrender the stopwatch, and to trust that our transformation is taking place, even when nothing seems to be happening on the surface. We want healing to be quick. We want the pain to end. We want to get over it and move on, because discomfort feels unbearable, especially when it lingers without explanation. The modern world doesn't give us many tools for patience. We're taught that if we try harder, we'll get better faster. That if we stay strong, we can outrun our pain. But that is not how the soul works. That is not how deep wounds mend. That is not how the body or spirit finds peace. Healing is not something we control. It is something we allow. In Buddhism, the process of healing is not about escaping pain or covering it up. It is about fully meeting it with awareness, compassion, and stillness. Pain is not a punishment. It is not a flaw. It is not something to hate or silence. It is a messenger. It is a teacher. It arrives to reveal something, to break something open inside us, to guide us inward where the roots of our suffering live, and we cannot rush what takes time to reveal. Sometimes healing looks like progress, sometimes it looks like relapse. Some days you feel light, some days the heaviness returns without warning. Some days you can breathe again, other days you feel like you're drowning. This is not failure, this is not weakness. This is the rhythm of real healing. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. A pause, a fall, a stillness, a small step again. Imagine a wound on your skin. You don't stare at it all day, demanding it to close. You clean it gently, you protect it, you allow time, and little by little, without your constant supervision, it begins to close. The same is true for emotional and spiritual wounds. They need tending, not rushing. They need space, not pressure. And most of all, they need your presence, not your punishment. Often, the deepest pain we carry is not from what happened to us, but from what we tell ourselves about it. I should be over this by now. Why am I still hurting? Something must be wrong with me. These thoughts do not help us heal, they slow us down. They add shame to pain, they add judgment to sorrow, and in doing so, they create another layer of suffering. Healing begins when we soften those voices, when we stop measuring our progress with the mind and start honoring the signals of the heart. The heart does not heal on demand. It does not respond to pressure. It opens in silence, in slowness, in trust. It opens when it feels safe, when it feels seen, and we create that safety by being kind to ourselves, especially when we are broken. There is a beautiful teaching in Buddhism called Kshanti, which means patience, endurance, and forbearance. It is the quiet strength to stay with discomfort without reacting. It is the grace to remain present when we want to run. It is the courage to let the storm pass without trying to control its course. Healing grows in that space, not by escaping the storm, but by learning how to breathe inside it. The modern idea of moving on suggests that we must forget, must erase, must replace. But Buddhism teaches non-attachment, not forgetfulness. It teaches us to be present with our pain, not imprisoned by it, to allow it to move through us, not define us, and to recognize that even in the darkness, something holy is happening. Something is dying, but something is also being born. What if healing is not about fixing, but about integrating? What if your sadness doesn't need to disappear, but just needs to be held? What if the part of you that feels broken is actually the part that's growing stronger roots? What if the emptiness is not a void, but a sacred pause between chapters? Trees do not bloom all year. Rivers do not rush every moment. The moon doesn't shine with the same intensity every night. And yet, we accept those cycles in nature. We find them beautiful. But when it comes to our own healing, we panic in the quiet seasons. We doubt the stillness. We fear the slow days. But the same wisdom that guides nature lives in you. Your healing has its own seasons. Honor them. Do not force spring during your winter. Do not demand harvest when your soul is still sowing. Healing is not an achievement. It is a remembering, a returning, a gentle reunion with your true self, the self beneath the fear, beneath the conditioning, beneath the armor you had to build to survive. And that return takes time. It takes layers. It takes patience. And yes, there will be moments when you think nothing is changing, when you feel stuck. But often, the deepest healing happens beneath the surface, quietly, invisibly, slowly. Like roots growing in the dark, like cells regenerating while you sleep, like water shaping stone over years. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not happening. Buddhist teacher Thich Nhat Hanh reminds us that no mud, no lotus. The lotus, one of the most revered symbols in Buddhism, grows in muddy water. Its beauty is not in spite of the mud, but because of it. In the same way, your healing will rise not by avoiding your pain, but by sitting with it, understanding it, learning to hold it with care instead of fear. And as you begin to hold your pain with more gentleness, something shifts. You start to see it not as your enemy, but as your teacher. You begin to learn what it has come to show you. Maybe it teaches you to slow down, to speak your truth, to create boundaries, to let go of what no longer serves you, to soften where you've been hardened, to finally come home to yourself. True healing changes not just how you feel, but how you live. It teaches you new ways to love, to rest, to trust, to live more aligned with your truth. But these changes don't come all at once. They come gradually, like sunrise, like thaw, like a heart that slowly learns to believe again. So how do you trust the unfolding? You let go of timelines. You stop comparing your path to others. You stop asking, when will I be better? And start asking, what do I need right now? You listen to your body. You honor your emotions. You speak to yourself like someone you love. You stop trying to escape your story, and instead you begin to embrace it. Because healing is not about becoming someone new. It is about unbecoming what you are not. It is about shedding the lies, the pressure, the shame, the masks. It is about returning to the part of you that was never broken, only buried. And that return takes time. So breathe, soften, stay present, let the process unfold. Trust that your body knows how to heal, your soul knows how to mend, your heart knows how to return home. All it asks is that you stop rushing, stop forcing, stop demanding, and start listening. Healing is not a destination, it is a sacred unfolding, one breath at a time. Let the silence heal you. Not everything needs to be said or solved. In a world obsessed with answers, explanations, and reactions, silence has become one of the most underrated forms of healing. We live in a time where noise surrounds us, from the outer noise of technology, opinions, responsibilities, and demands, to the inner noise of overthinking, regrets, fears, and imagined futures. We are constantly filling the space around us and within us. But beneath all that noise, there exists a deeper realm, a quiet field of stillness that we have forgotten how to enter. And yet, it is in that silence where the real healing waits. Silence is not empty. It is full of meaning. It is not lifeless. It is profoundly alive. When we enter silence, not just the absence of sound, but the quieting of the need to explain, defend, fix, or be understood, we begin to hear something else, the truth beneath the noise, the deeper voice, the inner knowing, the presence that has been patiently waiting for us to slow down. Buddhism teaches that truth is not something to be argued, it is something to be experienced, and that experience often begins in silence, not in conclusions, not in declarations, but in sitting still long enough to let the dust of our thoughts settle. In those moments of stillness, we begin to realize how much we've been reacting, speaking, moving, not from wisdom, but from habit, not from peace, but from pressure. There is a kind of silence that feels uncomfortable at first. It reveals things we've been avoiding. It brings up buried memories. It exposes the ways we've distracted ourselves. But if you can stay with that discomfort, if you can resist the urge to fill the space with more noise, you will eventually arrive at a silence that doesn't feel empty at all. It feels like coming home. Not everything needs to be spoken. Not every wound needs to be explained to the world. Not every situation needs a reaction. There is great power in learning when to remain silent, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. Because sometimes speaking too soon can scatter the energy. Explaining too much can dilute the truth. Reacting immediately can cloud our clarity. But silence, true, intentional, grounded silence, can clear the fog. Imagine a still lake. When the surface is calm, you can see all the way to the bottom. But when it's disturbed, when pebbles are thrown, when the wind is strong, the water becomes murky and nothing is clear. The same is true with the mind. When we are constantly talking, responding, analyzing, or filling every gap with activity, Our inner lake is never still enough to reflect the truth back to us. But when we stop, truly stop, and let the surface calm, we begin to see what was always there beneath the turbulence. There's a reason Buddhist monasteries are built in quiet mountains, forests, or deserts. It's not just for aesthetic beauty, it's to protect the space of silence. It's to give the mind a chance to return to stillness. Because in that stillness, something sacred awakens, something more intelligent than our thinking, something more compassionate than our judging, something more peaceful than our controlling. Silence is not the absence of communication. It's the space in which true understanding grows. Often, when people are hurting, they don't need your words. They need your presence. They don't need your advice. They need your stillness. They need to feel that you are there, not as a fixer or a commentator, but as a calm witness to their pain. And you can offer that only when you've cultivated that silence within yourself. The same is true for your own healing. You don't need to talk your pain away. You don't need to analyze every part of your story to feel better. Sometimes you just need to sit with yourself. Without commentary, without interpretation. Just sit, just breathe, just feel, and let the silence do its quiet work. There is a Tibetan Buddhist practice where monks sit in absolute stillness for hours, not as a discipline of control, but as an invitation to peace. They do not chant, they do not move, they do not try to reach enlightenment through effort. They allow it to arise through stillness, because they understand something the modern world has forgotten, that the soul doesn't scream for healing, it whispers for space. Think about how much we try to solve everything with words. When there's conflict, we argue. When there's confusion, we explain. When there's pain, we vent. And while there is value in expression, there's also a sacred power in restraint, in knowing when not to speak, in honoring silence as a form of wisdom. Some truths are too deep for words. Some emotions are too sacred to be reduced into sentences, and some lessons are only learned in the quiet. When you practice silence, you begin to notice things you never saw before, the subtleties in your breath, the patterns in your thoughts, the root of your restlessness, the places your mind goes when it's no longer entertained. And in that noticing, you begin to reclaim something precious, your attention, your inner balance, your awareness. Silence is not withdrawal, it is connection. It connects you to the present moment, to your body, to the space around you, to the divine within you. In silence, you begin to feel again. You begin to see the beauty in small things, the way the light hits the wall, the way the wind touches your skin, the sound of your own breath. You begin to realize that life is not something happening out there, it's something unfolding right here. And here's the great secret. When you stop trying to solve everything with your mind, the heart begins to open. When you stop filling every silence with commentary, clarity begins to arise on its own. When you stop explaining your pain to everyone, you begin to understand it yourself. This is the gift of silence. It doesn't give you answers in words. It gives you space to hear the truth that was always whispering beneath the noise. In Buddhist meditation, we are taught to return to the breath, not to escape the world, but to enter it more fully, to feel it, to be grounded in it, and to return to the silence where peace lives. Silence is not something to fear. It is something to enter gently, again and again, until it becomes familiar, until it becomes healing. Sometimes, the most powerful prayer you can offer is to sit in silence. Sometimes, the most profound insight comes not from asking more questions, but from listening more deeply. Sometimes the healing doesn't come from telling your story louder, but from letting it dissolve into the silence where it no longer defines you. When the world feels too loud, return to silence. When your thoughts spiral, return to silence. When you don't know what to say, return to silence. When you're trying to force an answer, return to silence. And trust that silence is not the absence of life, but the doorway to deeper living. You do not need to speak everything you feel. You do not need to solve everything you face. You do not need to be loud to be strong. Sometimes your greatest healing begins when you learn to simply sit and listen. Because silence is not empty. It's where you finally hear what truly matters. And it's in that stillness that your soul remembers how to be whole. Peace begins the moment you stop resisting what is. There is a quiet war we often don't even know we're fighting, a war against reality, a subtle resistance we carry into each moment, the need for things to be different, better, easier, more aligned with our preferences. We resist the weather, the traffic, the people around us, our past, our emotions, and even our own bodies. And this constant pushing against life, this inner struggle to change or escape what is, becomes the very source of our suffering. The Buddha once said, "Pain is inevitable, suffering is optional." At first, these words may seem confusing. How can suffering be optional when it feels so deeply woven into the human experience? But the wisdom lies not in denying pain, but in understanding its root. Pain arises in life, yes, loss, illness, rejection, uncertainty. These are part of being human. But suffering, the deep and lingering torment we carry, often comes not from the pain itself, but from our refusal to accept it. Resisting what is doesn't make it go away. In fact, it gives it more power. Like trying to hold back a wave with your hands, resistance only exhausts you. It builds tension in the mind and tightness in the body. The more we say, "This shouldn't be happening," the more we suffer. And the moment we drop that thought, even briefly, something softens, something opens. That is where peace begins. Not when the pain ends, not when the situation changes, but when we release the grip, the mental demand that the moment must be different from what it is. Think of a river. It flows without resistance. It moves around rocks, over fallen trees, through tight canyons. It doesn't argue with the terrain. It doesn't pause to complain about the obstacles. It simply moves, always adapting, always continuing, always trusting the path. What if we, too, could learn to flow like that? What if, instead of resisting every difficulty, we softened into it? What if we met each moment not with judgment, but with presence? In Buddhist practice, this is known as radical acceptance. It doesn't mean passive resignation. It doesn't mean giving up or being weak. It means seeing things clearly as they are, without adding the extra weight of should and shouldn't. When we accept the truth of the moment, even if it's painful, we reclaim our energy. We stop fighting an invisible battle. We come back to ourselves. Most of our stress is not about what's happening. It's about our thoughts about what's happening. It's the inner narrative. This shouldn't have happened to me. They should have treated me better. I can't handle this. This isn't fair. I need it to change now. These thoughts loop endlessly, pulling us away from the present into a spiral of resistance and suffering. But when we pause, breathe and say, "This is what's here," we begin to free ourselves. It's not easy, especially when the pain is deep, especially when the heart is broken or the future is uncertain. But it's in those very moments, when we feel the urge to run or fix or scream, that we are invited to sit down and meet the moment with honesty, to say, "Yes, this is what's happening. I don't like it. I didn't choose it. But this is where I am." That honesty is the first step toward peace. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack through a long mountain trail. You didn't pack it all yourself. Some of the weight was handed to you by others. Some you picked up along the way. Some you refused to let go of. And now, every step feels harder because of that weight. But what if you stopped and opened the bag? What if you saw that half the weight was made of things you no longer need? The expectations, the grudges, the impossible standards, the resistance to reality itself. Letting go of resistance doesn't mean you approve of everything that's happened. It means you're choosing not to let the past control your present. It means you're no longer arguing with life, but instead learning to live it, to breathe into it, to grow with it. And in that shift, something remarkable happens. You begin to feel peace, even in difficult moments, not because the pain is gone, but because you're no longer tangled in the fight against it. There's a story in Zen Buddhism of a monk who was imprisoned for many years. When he was finally released, someone asked him, "How did you not lose your mind in that dark place?" And he replied, "Because every day I practiced letting go of the idea that I was supposed to be somewhere else." That is the power of surrender, not giving up, but giving in to the wisdom of the moment. Surrender is not weakness. It's strength beyond measure. It takes courage to stop running. It takes faith to sit with what hurts. It takes inner power to say, "I will be with this moment as it is, without needing it to change." And ironically, it's from that space of deep surrender that true transformation begins. When we stop resisting, we stop clinging. And when we stop clinging, we begin to experience freedom. In Buddhist meditation, every breath becomes a teacher. Inhale, receive the moment. Exhale, release the resistance. Again and again, we return to the breath, not to escape life, but to embody it, to feel it fully, to trust that even the painful breaths are part of our awakening. When we resist life, we create a split within ourselves. We say, "This part of my experience is acceptable, and this part is not." But life doesn't work that way. It comes as a whole, joy and sorrow, gain and loss, praise and blame. The Buddha called these the 8 worldly winds, and he taught that peace is not found by chasing the pleasant or avoiding the painful, but by remaining centered no matter which wind is blowing. To live without resistance is to live with wholeness, to stop breaking life into good and bad, and instead ask, "What is life teaching me through this?" Pain can become a doorway to wisdom. Discomfort can become a path to compassion. Even grief can open the heart in ways joy never could. But only if we stop resisting it. Every time we say, "This shouldn't be," we miss the opportunity to learn from what is. Every time we brace ourselves against the flow of life, we cut ourselves off from the grace that's trying to carry us forward. But when we soften, when we allow, when we trust, we begin to experience a peace that doesn't depend on circumstances, a peace that arises from alignment with the truth. This doesn't mean we don't take action. It means we act from clarity, not chaos, from wisdom, not fear, from alignment, not resistance. When we are no longer fighting the moment, we can see more clearly what the next step is, and we can take it, not from desperation, but from grounded awareness. Look around you. Nature resists nothing. The sun rises even on stormy days. Trees bend in the wind, but don't break. The ocean receives every wave, and yet nothing is passive. Everything is alive, moving, evolving, without force. That is the way of harmony. And it is available to us too when we begin to live in alignment with life instead of against it. So when you feel the tension rise, pause. When your mind says, "This is wrong," breathe. When your heart aches for things to be different, place a gentle hand on your chest and say, "This too is part of my path." And trust that something greater is unfolding, even when you cannot see it. Because peace is not waiting for you on the other side of your circumstances. It's waiting for you right here, the moment you stop resisting what is. You can't control everything, but you can control how deeply you let it touch you. There's a quiet desperation in trying to control everything. It hides behind our planning, our worrying, our endless analyzing. It disguises itself as preparation, caution, or care, but underneath it all is fear. A fear of uncertainty, a fear of being hurt, a fear of things falling apart. We cling to schedules, outcomes, people, even our own thoughts, hoping that if we just manage things carefully enough, Nothing will slip through our fingers. But life, in its quiet wisdom, does not operate on our terms. It flows according to its own rhythm, and the more we try to grip it tightly, the more exhausted we become. Buddhism teaches that suffering arises not from what happens, but from our attachment to how we think it should happen. When we believe that we must control every detail, when we think peace comes only from perfection, we set ourselves up for disappointment. The truth is, we don't have control over much. We don't control the weather. We don't control the thoughts of others. We don't control the past. We don't control how long someone stays. We don't control the moment of our birth or the hour of our death. But we do control something far more powerful, how deeply we let these experiences shape our inner world. You can't control the wave, but you can learn to surf. That is the heart of this lesson. Life will rise and fall. It will bring moments of beauty and moments of heartbreak. But you are not helpless. You are not at the mercy of every tide. You can develop a depth within yourself that allows the storm to pass without drowning in it. You can cultivate a space between stimulus and response, where wisdom, not habit, becomes your guide. There will always be things that hurt. People may leave without warning. Illness may arrive when you least expect it. The world may shift beneath your feet. But the pain does not have to penetrate your soul. It does not have to break you open. You can meet it with presence. You can bow to it with dignity. You can acknowledge its arrival without letting it define your identity. Imagine your mind as a vast lake. When the wind blows, the surface ripples. But deep below, in the still waters, nothing is disturbed. That stillness is your center. That's the place you return to when life feels overwhelming. The surface of your life may change, the circumstances, the relationships, the successes and failures, but your depth remains untouched. And that is what you must protect. Not the external conditions, but the sanctuary within. We spend so much of our time trying to control people. We try to change their opinions, guide their choices, fix their flaws. But each person is on their own path. Each soul carries its own lessons. When we try to shape others into who we want them to be, we are not loving them, we are controlling them. And in doing so, we lose ourselves. The greatest gift you can offer others is your presence, not your manipulation. Your acceptance, not your control. And what about emotions? They too rise and fall like waves. Anger, sadness, joy, anxiety. These are not problems to fix, but energies to witness. The moment you try to suppress or control them, they grow stronger. But when you allow them to pass through you, like wind through an open window, they soften, they complete their journey, and you remain still, grounded, free. Control is not the same as power. True power is not about making life bend to your will. It's about meeting life as it is, with open eyes and an open heart. It's about choosing your response with awareness. When someone insults you, you can choose whether to carry their words or let them fall like dust. When a plan falls apart, you can choose whether to fight reality or adapt with grace. When fear arises, you can choose whether to feed it with stories or hold it in stillness until it dissolves. In Buddhist practice, we learn to create space. Space between thought and reaction. Space between emotion and action. Space between craving and grasping. And in that space, we find freedom. It is not the freedom to control everything. It is the freedom to not be controlled by everything. You can train your mind to stay calm in chaos. You can train your heart to remain open in pain. You can train your breath to guide you back when your thoughts run wild. This is the path of mindfulness. It's not about escaping life. It's about entering it fully, with wisdom as your compass and compassion as your shield. Not everything requires your energy. Not every comment deserves a response. Not every setback means the end. When you stop reacting to everything, you begin to feel lighter. You begin to see how much of your suffering came not from events, but from the stories you told yourself about those events. I'm not good enough. This always happens to me. They're trying to hurt me. These are not truths. They are habits of thought, and you can unlearn them. You can choose what you carry. You can choose what you magnify. You can choose which seeds you water in the garden of your mind. Do you nurture resentment or understanding? Do you feed fear or courage? Do you hold on to the pain or let it flow through you and out of you? Letting go of control does not mean becoming passive. It means becoming wise. It means knowing the difference between what is yours and what is not. Your thoughts are yours. Your reactions are yours. Your effort is yours. But the results, the approval, the permanence, those belong to the universe. There's a story of a monk who was insulted by a visitor. The visitor shouted, cursed, and threw hateful words. The monk listened quietly, smiled gently, and said nothing. When asked later why he didn't respond, he said, "If someone offers you a gift and you do not accept it, to whom does it belong?" The same is true of emotional attacks. You don't have to accept everything that comes your way. You don't have to let it pierce your peace. You can walk through a storm without letting it soak your spirit. You can sit with pain without letting it define you. You can be in the middle of change without being lost in fear. It all begins when you realize that peace is not found in control. It is found in clarity. Clarity of what is yours to carry and what you must release. Clarity of what you can influence and what you must surrender. Clarity of where your true power lives, not in outcomes, but in awareness. So when life becomes overwhelming, don't try to control everything. Come back to your breath. Come back to the present moment. Place your hand on your heart and remind yourself, I can't control everything, but I can choose how I respond. I can choose what I allow to stay. I can choose what I let touch the core of my being. And with each choice, you become lighter. You become freer. You become more grounded, not in the world around you, but in the unshakable calm within you. Because no matter what the world does, you always have a choice: to resist or to flow, to fear or to trust, to react or to rest in stillness. And when you begin choosing peace, not just as a concept, but as a practice, you'll find that life no longer needs to be controlled, because you've already mastered what truly matters. The deepest healing comes from facing what you've been avoiding. We often think healing means comfort, that if we just meditate enough, pray enough, distract ourselves enough, or speak positively enough, our pain will dissolve quietly and leave no trace. We tell ourselves that peace will come when everything settles down, when the heartbreak fades, when the anxiety stops, when the past is far enough away to no longer burn. But true healing doesn't arrive as a quiet breeze that soothes us without effort. It comes like a mirror. It shows us what we've buried, what we've run from, what we've refused to name. And it whispers, you can't be free until you face this. Buddhism does not ask us to bypass our pain or decorate it with spiritual words. It asks us to sit down in the middle of it, to breathe in its sharpness, to witness it with clarity. Because avoidance does not make pain disappear. It only makes it quieter until it resurfaces again in different forms, in anger, in anxiety, in addiction, in isolation, in self-sabotage. The wounds we refuse to face become the very chains that quietly direct our lives from the shadows. Every person carries a pain they've tried to avoid. For some, it's grief left unspoken. For others, shame woven through childhood. For many, it's the unbearable weight of never feeling enough. These wounds don't disappear with time. They sleep beneath the surface of our lives, reacting to triggers, relationships, failures, and fears. We think we're reacting to the present, but we're often responding to something unresolved from years ago. The comment from a stranger that cuts deeper than it should. The panic before a simple conversation. the exhaustion that feels far too heavy for the day. These are clues. They are not problems to fix, but messages from within. Your soul reminding you of something left untouched. To heal is not to cover the wound, but to open it gently and say, "I'm ready to listen now." And this listening is not passive. It's not indulging in self-pity or rehearsing the story of pain again and again. It is active awareness. It is sitting with the discomfort without turning away. It is breathing into the trembling. It is asking the questions you've avoided. Where does this come from? What am I really afraid of? What have I never forgiven myself for? What grief have I never let move through me? Avoidance is seductive. It promises us temporary relief. And sometimes we need that. Sometimes the pain is too raw and we need to breathe, to rest, to survive. But healing begins when we are strong enough to stop running, when we decide we are no longer afraid of our own truth, when we can say, "I am willing to feel what I couldn't before. I am willing to face what hurt me, not to suffer, but to understand, and to finally be free of its control." There's a teaching in Buddhism about turning toward the monster in the cave. The story goes that a traveler is walking a path and sees a dark cave ahead. Everyone warns him not to go inside. They say there's a terrifying beast who lives there, but the traveler, driven by curiosity and courage, enters the cave. As his eyes adjust, he sees the monster. It's large, frightening, grotesque, but instead of running, he bows to it. The monster begins to shrink. He bows again. The monster shrinks further. Each time he meets it with reverence, it loses its power. Until finally the monster disappears entirely, leaving behind a gem, the treasure of deep self-understanding and peace. This story is not about literal beasts. It's about the fear we have of ourselves, of our pain, of our memories, of the parts of our past we hope no one ever asks about. But when we turn toward them with compassion and attention, they begin to shrink. Their grip loosens, and we discover that beneath them is not ruin, but the very wisdom we've been seeking. You may think, if I look at it, it will destroy me. But the truth is, what you're avoiding is already hurting you, just in silence. The body remembers, the nervous system remembers, the soul remembers, and the moment you bring that pain into the light of awareness, it begins to transform, not because it vanishes overnight, but because light always softens what was once trapped in the dark. Healing is not about perfection. It's not about becoming someone who never feels pain. It's about becoming someone who no longer fears pain, someone who knows that emotions are not enemies but messengers, that the past does not define you, but it does contain clues about how you love, trust, react, and protect yourself. And that true peace is not found by avoiding the storm, but by learning how to sit calmly within it. You don't need to relive every wound, but you do need to let yourself feel, to cry when tears rise, to grieve what never was, to forgive who you once were, to speak aloud what you've only whispered inside. These acts are not weakness, they are sacred steps. Every tear you don't judge is a piece of armor removed. Every emotion you meet with gentleness is a wall falling down inside you. And beyond those walls is the soft soil where healing takes root. Some people carry trauma like a quiet ache in the background of their lives. They function, they smile, they achieve. But beneath it all is a constant tightness, a fear of letting go, a fear of being seen, a fear of what will come up if they stop distracting themselves. And yet, the moment they pause, even briefly, a wave begins to rise. That wave is the invitation. It is not there to drown you. It is there to cleanse you. To heal is not to go back to who you were before. It is to become someone new because of what you faced. It is to grow softer, not harder, more open, not more guarded, more grounded, not more numb. And that transformation begins when you finally stop saying, "I'll deal with it later," and begin saying, "I'm ready now." You may not know how to start. That's okay. Start small. Sit in silence for 5 minutes and ask, "What am I feeling?" Write a letter to your younger self. Say the thing out loud that you've never said. Talk to someone who listens with compassion. Let the tears come without shame. These are not small acts. They are revolutions inside the soul. The truth is, the thing you're avoiding is probably the thing that will set you free. The memory you've never spoken of. The forgiveness you've withheld from yourself. The grief you've stuffed down for years. These are not weaknesses, they are doorways. And on the other side is not more pain, but peace. The kind of peace that comes not from controlling your life, but from understanding it, from owning your story, from honoring the path that shaped you, even the darkest parts. You are not broken because you carry pain. You are not weak because you feel deeply. You are not behind because you still have wounds. You are human, and healing is not linear. Some days you will feel powerful, other days you will feel fragile. Both are sacred, both are part of the journey. Buddhism teaches that the lotus flower blooms only in the mud. That beauty does not arise from perfection, but from depth, from struggle, from darkness. And that each time you sit with your pain, instead of avoiding it, another petal unfolds within you, another layer of compassion, another moment of peace, another breath of freedom. So if there is something you've been avoiding, some truth, some emotion, some piece of your past, this is your invitation. Not to suffer through it, but to meet it with love, to hold it with the hands of understanding, to listen to it with the ears of silence, and to remember that you are not alone in this. Every human walks this path, every soul carries pain, but not every soul chooses to face it. That is your strength, that is your courage, that is your awakening. The deepest healing does not come from escaping the pain. It comes from finally being brave enough to sit beside it. And when you do, you'll find that the thing you feared the most was never there to break you. It was there to bring you home to yourself. Stillness is the greatest revolution in a world that never stops. In the world we live in, stillness is seen as a pause, a delay, a weakness. To sit and do nothing is called unproductive. To rest is often labeled as lazy. To be quiet is confused with passivity. And so we live in constant motion. We scroll, we run, we achieve, we update, we compare. And when we feel the tremble of unease inside, we distract ourselves with more movement, more noise, more doing. But no matter how fast we go, we cannot escape ourselves. Our busyness becomes a mask, not a medicine. Stillness is not just a break from the world, it is the world returning to its original rhythm. Beneath every racing thought, beneath every pressured breath, beneath every overwhelming emotion is a space, silent, vast, and untouched. That space is your true nature. In Buddhism, it is the foundation of awareness. Not the awareness that comes from thinking, but the awareness that comes from being. It is not found in the chaos of more. It is uncovered in the depth of less. We fear stillness because it reveals the things we've spent our lives avoiding. It strips away the illusions. It silences the distractions. And it gently but firmly holds up a mirror. It says, "Here you are. No mask, no pretending, no role to perform, just you." That is a terrifying moment for the ego, because the ego depends on activity. It defines itself by its stories, its labels, its accomplishments. But the soul thrives in stillness. It doesn't need to be something. It simply is. It watches, it breathes, it listens. The world is obsessed with noise. We are taught to speak more than we listen, to react faster than we reflect, to post before we pause. But this noise is not just external, it's internal. It's the constant commentary in the mind. I should be better. I should be further along. What do they think of me? What if I fail? What if I'm not enough? This inner noise drains us. It separates us from our center, and stillness, true stillness, is the only thing that can pierce it. Stillness is not emptiness. It is fullness without clutter. It is where clarity lives, where you realize that most of what you chase is not needed. That peace does not come from fixing everything outside, but from dissolving the illusions inside. When you are still, you begin to see how often your suffering is created not by the world, but by your resistance to it. You begin to see that you don't need to win every argument, prove your worth, or control every outcome. In stillness, you remember, I am already whole. People often ask, how do I find peace? The answer is simple, but not easy. You must stop long enough to remember that peace is already within you. It's buried under layers of stress, desire, and noise. The more you strip away, the clearer it becomes. But stripping away requires courage. It means letting go of the identity you've built through busyness. It means sitting with discomfort instead of avoiding it. It means slowing down in a world that tells you to speed up. That is not weakness. That is the greatest act of rebellion. Stillness teaches us to listen deeply, not just to the sounds around us, but to the voice within. The voice that says, you are tired. The one that says, you are chasing things that don't feed your soul. The one that says, you already know what to do. Be still enough to hear it. In stillness, your intuition sharpens. You stop looking for answers from others. You begin trusting your own wisdom. You realize that your life does not have to look like anyone else's. It just has to feel aligned with your truth. The Buddha often retreated into silence, not because he had nothing to say, but because he understood that the deepest truths are not found in words. They are felt, they are experienced, they are remembered in stillness. And when we sit quietly, not scrolling, not planning, not thinking, we begin to access that same depth. It is not dramatic, it is not loud, but it is powerful. In the stillness, we begin to heal, because in the stillness we finally allow ourselves to feel, and in feeling, we release. Stillness is where presence is born. It is where we stop running from the moment, where we stop living in the past or fearing the future. It is where we meet life as it is, without trying to change it. And in that meeting, something sacred happens. We realize that the moment doesn't need to be different for us to be at peace. We simply need to be here, fully, awake, software listening, breathing. There is nothing passive about stillness. It is not the absence of movement, it is the presence of depth. It is what allows the lake to reflect the moon, what allows the heart to soften, what allows the body to rest. Without stillness, we cannot truly see, we cannot truly know, we cannot truly love, because to love deeply, we must be present. And to be present, we must first be still. Look around you. The trees are still, the mountains are still, the stars move slowly, without rush. Nature is not in a hurry, and yet everything is accomplished. This is the rhythm we've forgotten. This is the rhythm stillness brings us back to. A rhythm of trust, of flow, of deep alignment. It is not lazy, it is not indifferent, it is wise, it is gentle, it is powerful. You may be wondering, how do I begin? Begin with your breath. Sit for 5 minutes, close your eyes, feel your body, listen to the sounds, notice the thoughts, but don't follow them. Just watch, breathe, return, again and again. You don't have to fight the thoughts, just come back to stillness. Let it hold you, let it teach you, let it soften you. As you practice, something begins to shift. You start to see clearly, you start to feel more grounded. You stop reacting to every emotion, every thought, every external event. You begin responding with wisdom instead of habit. You begin choosing your energy. You begin protecting your peace. And you start to notice the beauty in simple things, in silence, in space, in breath, in presence. Stillness is not a destination. It is a homecoming. Each time you return to it, you return to yourself. You remember that you don't need to do more to be worthy. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to be here, fully alive in this breath. And from that place, the right actions arise naturally, not from fear, but from love, not from pressure, but from truth. In a world that never stops, stillness is a radical act. It is how we reclaim our humanity, how we find our center, how we awaken to the miracle of being. And the more we practice, the more we carry that stillness into everything we do, into our relationships, our work, our healing. We become calm in the middle of chaos, clear in the middle of confusion, soft in the middle of noise. And that is what the world needs. Not more speed, not more noise, but more still souls who remember the sacred power of being. So pause. Be still. Listen. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not too late. You are right where you need to be. And if you can trust this moment, this breath, this silence, you will find that everything you've been chasing has been quietly waiting for you in the stillness all along. You don't need to control everything. You only need to understand yourself. We are taught that if we can control our environment, we can be safe. If we can control our future, we can be successful. If we can control our image, we can be loved. And so we spend our days tightening our grip on plans, people, goals, and identities. We organize every moment. We try to anticipate every outcome. We try to predict how others will react, how life will unfold, how everything will feel. Control becomes our safety blanket, our defense against the unknown. But beneath this constant control is not peace, it is fear.